Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order for the Committee of the Whole meeting of the Board of Education, July 9th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. in the boardroom of the Administration Building at 70 Conover Road, Colts Neck, New Jersey. If I could please have a roll call.
Yes, you may. Mrs. Cameron?
Here.
Mrs. Horowitz?
Here.
Mr. Rico?
Here.
Mrs. Ramirez? Mr. Ragnetta is participating remotely. Thank you. Mr. Scales?
Here.
Mr. Scarpa?
Here.
Mrs. Volpe?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, this meeting has been duly advertised in the Asbury Park Press in a schedule of meetings dated January 16th, 2025, and March 4th, 2025, notice of which has been filed with the Deputy Clerk for Colts Neck Township, and the requirements of postings of notices have been met. If we could all rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anybody want to volunteer to read the mission statement? All right, Mr. Walsh.
The mission of Colts Neck Township Schools is to empower and inspire students to be confident, creative, self-sufficient learners who maximize their strengths and talents and contribute as responsible participants in their ever-expanding world.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on, we have no information items tonight. I'd like to open the floor to comments from the public. If anybody here would like to get up and make a comment, you could please do so at this time. Please state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. We have a couple of action items here for approval. If you all want to take a look at that. I wanted to take note of item number 3, the acceptance of a donation here. I do not know this gentleman, Mr. Ron Gale, but I want to personally thank him on behalf of this Board of Education for donating such a generous donation of lacrosse equipment to our schools. It was given from the Mavericks Lacrosse Club. So we want to give a shout out to that gentleman and his lacrosse club for being so kind and generous to the Colts Neck Township School District. So thank you very, very much for that. Anybody else have any comments on those? All right. If you want to recognize Mrs. Ramirez has joined us. Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to Can I do? No, I didn't yet, but I just want to make sure you're ready. Yeah, I'd like to get a motion to move those action items.
Motion.
Can I get a roll call? Action items 1 through 6.
Mrs. Camera,
Yes.
Mrs. Horowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Arico.
Yes.
Seeing Mrs. Ramirez is present, Mrs. Ramirez.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Regnetta? Yes. Mr. Scales?
Yes.
Mr. Scarpa? Yes. Mrs. Volpe?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, great, thank you. We are going to move into our presentation. Or we're going to wait for it later? Okay, I just saw it here, I wasn't sure if we were going to do it then. Okay, we're going to take note of a couple of communications here. I just want to make a comment. When I became president, I made it a priority to always involve the public in our meetings. I even went so far as to add a second comment section so that everybody would have a say in, what's going on our board. I do like to address the communications, the first communication. Everybody on this board holds themselves, what I feel, they're very respectable people. They work hard, they commit their time on this board away from their family, friends, and work. And to receive an email that I felt was very rude, I just want to, make note that I won't stand for anybody accusing anybody of lack of professionalism here. So going forward, I will not address any communications that are degrading to any one of the sitting board members in the Colts Township School District. Moving forward, we're going to start with the board liaison reports. Mrs. Horowitz, if you can start with the Parent Advisory Committee.
I have nothing to address tonight.
All right, anything on the PTO?
Nope.
All right, great. Moving on to the Colts Township School Newsletter, Mrs. Camera.
Okay, the third edition of the Board of Education newsletter was released on June 27th. This edition highlighted all the amazing spring happenings and celebrations across our schools, from student accomplishments to end-of-the-year events. There was a lot to be proud of, so check it out if you haven't already. It's on the Facebook page of the Board of of the Colts Neck Township Schools, as well as on our website. That's all.
Okay, great, thank you, Mrs. Camera. Moving on to the extracurricular activities in sports and arts, Mr. Regnetta.
Thank you. Just one thing right now. Flag football registration is now open. You can do the early bird sign up for $175, and then it increases from there on. The early bird sign up is now through July 19th. Then it goes up to $195 starting July 20th to August 2nd. And then late registration is $225 from August 3rd to August 15th. There's going to be a hard cutoff to register after August 15th, but you can be put on a waiting list with no guarantee, though, and the cost will be up to $275 by then. So I suggest you do the early bird sign up if you want your kids to sign up for flag football this fall. The opening day will be September 6th. Thank you.
Great, thank you for those updates. Moving back to Mrs. Camera and Mr. Scarpa, the Colts Neck Township Committee.
Yeah, I was away, so.
Right. So our RAM meeting last time, regular action meeting, overlapped with the Township Committee meeting on June 25th, but I did listen live stream. So some highlights include some preservation and grants. The Township continues to focus on land preservation and is actively applying for a grant for work in the Hominy Hill area. There were 2 new additions to our business community, the Institute for Better Living and the Advanced Heart and Vascular Center, so welcome to Colts Neck. Congratulations to Christopher Quinn Canyon Jr., I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, on earning the rank of Eagle Scout. A reminder for residents to attend concerts in the park every Thursday, and a big thank you. There was an anonymous resident who donated their time, their labor, and talent to help rebuild the stage. So thank you. This is a reminder from both the Township Committee and the Colts Neck Sports Foundation. In order to protect our athletic fields, they are asking that all pets be kept on leashes while on Township property. There was a successful Father's Day Derby, a lot, so another successful community event. Again, thank you all who participated. And just again, graduation, congratulations. So many township committee members attended the Colts Neck High School graduation. And a special shout out to Board of Education member Brian Scarpa. His daughter Julia graduated, so congratulations. July 3rd, thanks to the town and residents for organizing fun activities and fireworks. A lot of us know that unfortunately the fireworks had to go off during the thunderstorm, but either way, before the Colts Neck Community Church, they did a lot of activities for free for the residents here. And the summer program, the Colts Neck Recreation Summer Camp, is off to a great start. And there is another township committee meeting tonight. Unfortunately, we had made a promise not to overlap, and unfortunately, the dates were changed, so hopefully that does not happen again. So, thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Camera. Moving on to the Colts Neck Township Planning Board, Mr. Scales and Mr. Walsh.
Nothing to report on my end. We're in a holding pattern until we get final approval, so.
I add to that affordable housing, I know Dr. Gary sent out a proposal for the demographic
Yeah,
study.
yeah.
And I believe Mr. Scales, he said the town may be paid for their own, so we don't want to waste $10,000.
No, absolutely
Oh, well,
not.
that would be,
Well,
that would be
yeah,
great.
we're going to address it, but yeah. I need to be a demographic.
Wow, $10,000. Okay. Anything else? All right. Moving on to the Colts Neck Township Seniors, Mr. Walsh.
I'd like to acknowledge the great work of the Parks and Recreation Department. They had their senior citizen fitness this Tuesdays,
Put your mic on,
at the
Kevin.
Recreation Center. They do particularly for our children and the summer camps they run. It's a fabulous program, affordable. So kudos to our Township Recreation Department. And their classes they run out of their building on Hires Mill Road for the senior citizens. I'll add to Phyllis to have that Summer Sounds tomorrow night. I think it's 7 to 8:30 each Thursday night with a different music venue each Thursday. That's it.
Okay, great, Mr. Walsh. Moving on to Naval Weapons Station Earl, Mr. Scarpa and Mrs. Ramirez.
I don't have anything to update as of right now. Do you?
No, I think we're still waiting on a couple of things unless there's been an update from Nick Moretta on location for the, sorry, my brain's not working right now, the lasting imprint, where we talked about maybe doing
Yeah,
an
we're
imprint or
exploring
something.
different tiles, like a tile mosaic for each school. Those are the things we're looking into right now to present, like a present, give something of a formal proposal back to the board with regards to possibly a tile mosaic at each school. That's what we're looking for
Okay,
of some
excellent.
kind. The other thing is that I know Ida West Jones and Dr. Reynolds, and we're all working on the Purple Star School designation application, which I think is due the end of September, yeah. It's open, it was finally released by the state, and it's due September 30th, so they are plugging away, so thank you for that, and fingers crossed, we check a lot of the boxes, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to honor the district and with that type of recognition, so stay tuned.
That's a per school award, correct? That's not a district?
That's correct, it is a per school award.
So we have 3 chances.
We have 3 chances to get 3 stars. Let's go. We do. And it's actually run through the same program as a state program as the Blue Ribbon School. Like it's actually listed as under that category of the same funding. So we're hopeful that with regard to funding and everything that those things continue. So we're excited. Hopefully we have good news. October, I think they have a pretty quick turnaround. They said October, November, maybe. I think November. November, yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Mrs. Ramirez. Moving on to state and county school boards. I just have a couple of webinars. We have 3. July 16th, we have What's Brewing in Educational Law. If anybody wants to attend virtually, that will be on the New Jersey School Board Association's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. And you can register online for that. We also have one on July 30th. That webinar is the state budget recap and legislative update. That is also at 10 a.m. You could register at the website, and that will be on the YouTube channel as well. And then the last one, August 6th, the webinar is for Are You Ready for the Opening of a School? Geez, we just got out, it feels like, and they're prepping for opening. Yep. Yeah, I know. And that will be 10 a.m. also on their YouTube channel. And then just a reminder to everybody, the New Jersey School Board Association has gone into their summer schedule. They're open 4 days a week. They're on a 4-day-a-week work schedule, Monday through Thursday only. And that concludes that. We will move now into the Committee of a Whole work session. We're going to start with the Ad hoc Affordable Housing Committee report. Mr. Scales.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. Just 3 quick points on here. Number one, added the link to the housing impact sheet. This was that second version that I mentioned during the RAM meeting. We updated it because it had the final numbers for when we made the presentation to the town. That ultimately makes the presentation to the state. So quick attachment and link for the public to review that, and that's on our website, which are, mind you, the new website's phenomenal, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So it's very easy to navigate. So this link is directly on there. Number 2, the demographic study, just as you had mentioned, Mr. Walsh. Yeah, no, you're not stealing my thunder at all. This is thunder that needs to be, let's not have this thunder. I don't know if you, did you want to provide any color, Dr. Garibay, on it? We just got to see sort of what the preliminary estimate was.
Yeah, this is an estimate. It's the first time going on in my communication to you and Mr. Walsh. We had said that Mr. Marasco fully intends on reaching back out to get a little bit better idea of what this is for, as well as negotiations, and really reaching right out to find out. That's where we are right now. So it was what was submitted to us, but further discussion obviously is going to be had.
And I think from it's high.
Oh, you had asked a question, I'm sorry,
yeah.
you had asked a question in the email communication regarding how much was the original one.
Yeah.
The original, we said, was a little over 13,000,
Yeah.
which was done.
So that's what my
yeah.
fear. My fear was that it was close to the same amount, because it's like, $150 an hour. It's not a bad rate, but for 66 hours, this is a little high number of hours to produce something that we're essentially just re-updating, right? So I think what we can do is, I don't know if they would consider it, but some of the work that our ad hoc committee has already done, right, with our versions of the affordable housing sheet and things like that, might help. I don't know if it could speed up the process, might shed some of those hours, but essentially 66 hours is what it comes out to. So if you think about it, it's a week and a half of labor. We'll see. It's always tough to challenge people on what there is, but I think there's a little less to it now that we've got the real life scenario of the grant for them to take a look at and to show all that stuff. So more to come on that. And then, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Is it worth us looking into to see if other companies would be able to do it at a similar rate, so that we know if this is a fair rate, in case, in the occasion that we want to go down this route, we have something to compare it to say, okay, this is a fair price or not, or is that not?
My only comment would be, there's no harm in doing that. They would probably offer, a full study that they would have to do from the scratch,
Right.
which essentially he's been through that first groundwork of obtaining information from the township, so he's more or less adding to it. Certainly going to ask him about the fees and what's involved. It might be something I don't know. So
My other concern would be, I know we've scrutinized the study a lot and pointed out many of the potential flaws that are in it, and just some of our concerns. And I know residents have voiced their concerns at township meetings and here during our board meetings. So being that there is that, yes, someone else may charge even slightly more, right? Let's say there's someone else that charges $13,000, which was the original one. But if there's some kind of weight behind that, because, again, just us as 9 board members here, we've scrutinized this pretty heavily since January, then maybe it's worth us getting some other ideas to see if there's another company that may be a fresh set of eyes, right? We've said that a lot over, various topics, so maybe a fresh set of eyes would be worth it. Your microphone. No one can hear all your good ideas, Kevin.
Just leave it on. My suggestion, yeah, just leave it on.
I'd be really interested in who the town's going to pick and who are they going to rely on for our township, since they're going to be the body that approves what's going to happen going forward. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, it's the art of the deal, right? I
Yep.
mean, think about it, when you're proposing something, so the background is that the township, during our subcommittee that we had for affordable housing, they had offered to pay for a new study, but we haven't heard back on that. So what we will need to do on behalf of the school, and more importantly it's on behalf of the town, right? Because if you think about it, we're the largest piece of the budget of the town, right? So it's within their best interest to work with us. That was part of, how we were forming the relationship. But in any negotiation, it's always best to give a proposal first. So I think if we negotiate, with this company, and to your point, working with, yeah, we'll have a couple different options, and I think where you were going is more of the value of the study, what sort of the
Right, it doesn't seem like
nuts and bolts would be.
As a whole, at least some of the opinions that have been voiced,
Yeah.
that there's a whole lot of value behind the study. All I've really
Yeah.
heard is, it's not really representative of what took place in the grant, so
Yeah.
does that mean that we're not putting value behind this? And if we're not putting value behind it, which I think is what we've been saying, then maybe we need to look at some other options. I don't think it's, again, if it doesn't harm us, it doesn't cost anything to get, appraisal from
Yeah.
someone else, so just throwing something out there. I
Yeah,
think
it's a
might
great point, because we had the demographic study, I think it was like 1990, whatever it was, and they came up shy on the grant, the numbers were off. And considering we use this as a benchmark to make a lot of the decisions,
Yeah.
it's incumbent upon us to try to draw on another estimate to bring it, not so much on the cost, but hey, what do they offer? Maybe they're looking at it from a different perspective. There's a piece here that it's not taking into consideration rentals. We're renting 3.1% right now of housing. That's going to go up, obviously, with our influx. So is there another group that is more familiar with the rental market that we should bring into fold? Because this is going to drive a lot of our decision-making. We're hoping
Budget.
that the budget, we're hoping that the margin of error is much less than it was before. I mean, like the other estimate that came in was X, and we saw 5X or 4X. So it's like it wasn't worth perhaps the paper was drawn on. What has improved in 25 years since the last one we had, or however long it was, to where we're at today? And say maybe the margin of error was 10%, but now it's 3.5, considering all the data that's out there. So do we have any information about that? Because you're right, it's an expensive proposition. We need to get something out of
And we
it.
want something that's valuable.
Of
If it's not
course,
valuable, then
of course.
what does it matter if this company gives us something else? Their numbers could
Absolutely.
be exactly the same on the update, and then are we all going to sit here and say, well, great, now we just paid $10,000, and the
What do we
numbers are
get
exactly
from
the
it?
same,
Yeah.
and we still don't believe them?
Yeah.
Then what's the value behind spending the 10 grand? And even if the township decides to go at Sundance, then same idea, right? If we're not going to put value behind it, then I kind of think it's a moot point.
We
So-
could write that into the language too. If it's the same exact number, we're not paying for it. Literally.
But,
Write that in there.
and what has changed? We live in an age of data, right?
Yeah.
1990, what was the last one? Was it 90 or 2000?
22.
22.
There was one prior to that. It was the one, we did in 2022, when they were first, there was a lot of just talking
Okay.
about the affordable housing expansion. So that's why the board at the time commissioned a new study.
In 22, okay.
Correct. So it was 21 to 22 school year. But you're right that there was one a while before
yeah,
that,
yeah,
when the
yeah.
capacity study was done in like 2013 or 4.
Gotcha,
It was first
okay.
done, when they were looking at making some
Closing the
changes.
primary school.
Elementary, correct.
Elementary school.
Correct,
Okay.
Mr. Walsh, yes.
So, yeah, so what has changed in the data space? You're right, it's a lot of money, and we want to get something out of it here, and it's going to be a core tenet of our budget structuring. So let's ask the right questions, and it's certainly an opportunity to look for another estimate. Maybe a company can afford this, this, and this, with a specialty in the rental markets. That might go a long way. I agree.
What kind of study is the township doing? Or is that what we don't know yet?
It would be based off our recommendation. So once we get this information, we know sort of what the details of the study will actually be, or what they can do. Then we can present it to the town, and then have them report back to us their recommendations on what additional items they would want in the study. And then that's where more of the shared value can come from, right? So then we can decide, where's the study, who's paying for the study? Like, what percentage is the board paying versus what percentage is the township committee? I
Right,
think
that's
it
what I was
was an
thinking. It might be
unveiled comment,
advantageous
yeah,
to
yeah.
to collaborate and hopefully
But we gotta give them something.
Where they get, right, we don't have to pay the full amount, the full
Because then
amount.
we could request to be on you know, in an August or September meeting, right? And then just, you know, suggest and present what our study is and what we would want from them, so.
Do we need to make a formal request for there to be a second estimate, or can you just do it? You can just do it. Thanks.
And for procedurally, for the direction of the administration, do you want us to, well, obviously, Ms. Ross is going to be reaching out to Sundance, request proposals from other places, and, you know, we'll speak to that. But in terms of coordinating with the township, you know, do you want that to be between Township Community Board, or do you want Mr. Marasco to reach out to the township administrator to start those conversations about level setting the information and share, like that? So I just want, in terms of that direction,
Yeah, I
what
would
would
say
you
if
prefer?
you go that route, where less cooks in the kitchen gets more, you know,
Okay, perfect. So we'll do that. All right, thank you. We'll do that.
not to add more work to your plate.
It's all good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. And then kind of hand in hand, number 3, district and school water testing. We've talked about it. We've had some comments that were brought up last meeting as well, too. So I think you had mentioned before, Dr. Garibay, that like there's some stipulations of what were required by law, and then like what those results could be, and then how we could present it, just so the public can see as we're testing it as the construction's going on.
Sure, and we can make those things visible, and results for part of them are visible. The folder that is for the cow had water testing information, which have results, and I'm going to pass the baton to Mr. Marasco in a minute, but you are correct, we are required. So every 3 years, we are required by law to test for lead testing. That's something that was a new law that was passed recently, a while ago, but more recently than others. We also monthly have a company that comes in to test our water softeners, okay, to make sure that that's all doing well and everything. And then annually, we test for nitrates and things that are well-related. So we actually, and I don't want to steal any information from you.
accurate.
Okay, that's good. So we have,
On well systems, we have to go through
Yeah.
standard DEP, testing and compliance, and
Yep.
ensure that testing is taking place, that we have results, that we respond to those results. The every 3-year lead testing, that's a different, that was put on by the state to all the districts.
Yeah.
No matter what kind of water source system you have.
and that came out a while ago as a result of some of the schools having lead in their pipes, of the older districts that had like that, and they were coming up with some contamination levels that were, yeah. Yes. So that's where that one came up, so, yeah,
No, we didn't know science.
yes.
But I think, so, like, the big part of it, in the testing, do they give us any sort of idea of the aquifer underneath us, of where we're drawing the water from? Because what I want to try to correlate it to, what we can try to, and to put the public at ease, or to raise awareness, if, God forbid, there is an issue. The main issue at all the town meetings is the new water treatment system that they're putting in has never been tested with this amount of units and this amount of capacity, right? So then what happens is, if that were to break and fail, it goes into the Yellow Brook, and the Yellow Brook goes into the Swimming River Reservoir. So we're lucky from that standpoint, where I don't believe where we are drawing our water from, that we would be impacted. But I think it's important to note, or to find out, where, God forbid, if there was any leaching as well, if that aquifer flows in this direction, if we're drawing on that. I don't know if there's any ways that we could do it, or if you have a map or you know about it too.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm pretty well versed when it comes to wells and the aquifers and everything. So that water sewage treatment plant that they're gonna have over on that property, if it does fail, it will go into pretty much right where Big Brook is.
Yep.
And Big Brook, it I believe does dump into the reservoir.
Yeah, within an hour if you get it.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. So that is then, the American Water Company has the water distillation there, right? So they will most likely be able to remove all that in the drinking water for their, for their customers, obviously.
Yeah.
So they have a whole treatment plant there, the whole nine. It would take, so you have the first aquifer, which is anywhere from like 25 feet to like about 90 feet. Then the second aquifer is about 100 something feet to like 120 25 feet to like 175 feet. And then you have the third aquifer, which is anywhere from roughly like, I don't know, I think it's like 185 feet depending on the elevation, and you can go all the way down to 285 feet depending on your elevation in New Jersey. So those, and that's called, the third aquifer is called the Englishtown Channel. Now, as far as what I see, I mean, it could take literally thousands of years
Oh, okay, good.
for the water
Thank God.
to get down to like that third, that even second or third
Even
aquifer.
second or third, okay.
You know what I mean? The first one, maybe it'll take a few hundred years and then everyone with that first aquifer they would be screwed.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So, but it is what it is. That's really what it comes down to. Is it an environmental hazard? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Who oversees this water treatment?
It would be it would have to, well, any fines or violations would come from the DEP,
Yeah.
from this New Jersey State DEP. So,
But we as a district wouldn't be responsible, that would be them.
it would be that entity.
That's-
Because whenever everyone, yeah, it's a residential, but somebody owns it, and it's a rental property, it's commercial. It's a commercial property. So that commercial entity would be responsible for paying for those state and local DEP fines. We had a situation like that a while ago in town with another company. It was a restaurant, and they had their sewage actually flowing into like the Yellowbrook or something like that, and they incurred, I think, almost $1 million worth of fines. And then they took them to court, paid it down, paid it off, and put in a brand new put in a brand new septic system there, and that was taken care of. So yeah, I mean.
So Rob, for clarification, is your question which aquifer this property pulls from? Is that your question? Or I
Yeah,
guess
so, but it sounds
middle
like
school
even
too?
if, so it sounds like we're
It wouldn't impact it necessarily anytime soon.
anytime soon. So
Well,
it's
no,
not
and
immediate.
we're not even obviously like here, like we're not even near that,
Yeah.
And if it does fail, and if it does go into Big Brook, I mean,
We're not drawing water from there.
we're not
anyway.
drawing
Yeah.
water from there anyway. That's not our drinking water.
Yep.
So then there is no question for number 3. I just want to clarify, make sure I'm following.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
stop your question then?
It
Okay.
does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, unless they dig a hole underneath the sewage plant that goes
Directly into.
directly into one of the aquifers, you know what I mean?
But there's just so much soil and.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Cool. So then the testing that we're doing then, that you had mentioned, we're covering all of our bases.
So what I was going to say, the two tests that we run annually, one is for nitrates and one is for PFAS. So PFAS in water refers to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances that have contaminated drinking water sources. These man-made chemicals, often called forever chemicals due to their persistence in the environment, are found in various consumer products and industrial applications. They can enter water supplies through industrial discharge, firefighting foam, landfill, and among other pathways. The nitrates in New Jersey, the presence of nitrate in drinking water, while often associated with nitrate contamination, is a concern due to its potential to cause diseases in infants. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection sets a maximum contaminant level for nitrate at 10 milligrams per liter, and those are the two things that we test for. And then in the folder, Mr. Moretta provided what that was in the testing, so that's something that we do on an annual level. So we have the softeners, the lead is every 3 years, and then that is annually. So we do tests for all this. But I can definitely, if you have additional questions, just email Mr. Marasco and I will get you.
Seems good.
Are we able to put the annual and monthly testing on the website so anyone in the public could just view?
Yeah, it's public, it's public information, so. yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
if we add that, I mean, if everyone.
Sure, we can put it, so we can
Might
consider a
as well
separate
just
thing.
add it into
Sure.
that folder.
Right.
Because that's where people are going, so, cool.
Okay, sure, great.
Good. Awesome. Well, that-
So if I remember correctly, last year, I believe Nick was here explaining the well to us, and he was explaining to us that the well is 60 years old and that they they couldn't find out who installed it, so they don't know much, they don't know
Yeah.
much about it. They don't know how deep it is, or anything like that, but, he knows that it's a pretty heavy-duty well. They don't know how deep it is, right, Vince?
I don't know how
Okay, right,
deep it is.
right. I don't think it's like 85 feet. I don't think it's a shallow well. I really,
Whatever it is, we know that it's been drawing good water.
yes,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
so
there you go.
if it's been drawing good water, it is most likely,
Yeah, we were okay.
yeah,
Integrity of the well is likely intact. It was, remember, we were separating out the condition, what we wanted to test were the holding tanks.
right.
Those are over 60 years old at each property.
Hmm.
And I'm actually going to kind of highlight something that has to do with water in the next group.
Okay, okay,
Anyway.
Water's a hot
anyway,
topic.
That's the reason for, this periodic testing.
sure,
We did it because
yeah,
it could, poor readings could tell you something about, A, the condition of either where it's drawing from or where it's sitting in these reserve tanks, et
And-
cetera, et cetera.
right, but that's the raw water that they're testing.
Oh,
Yes, yeah, not the treated, it's so we know what it is in the raw water, yeah. And if that raw water is coming back,
Absolutely. And then it goes through, when it gets to the building, through filtration.
exactly,
different
yeah. If,
shaping mechanicals to get to drinking outlets and so forth.
because if if the raw water is coming back good, then that's a great sign, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it generally means your aquifer is
Yep.
still providing
Clean water.
clean water.
Yeah, so conclusion, we're ahead of it. The testing we're doing is adequate, and if there was a problem, we would know ahead of time. So, great. And we've got hundreds of years where there was an issue.
Just another level too, we continue to add bottle filling stations throughout the schools, replacing the different things. We continue to do that. That was a project we started years ago, and we just keep replacing a few at a time and for even more, filtrations.
Excellent.
Good, and now we'll add all this great information
So people have it.
so people have it if they're interested in
Communication.
learning more about the water that their children drink.
Wonderful. Well, we are ahead of it. Good. No, thanks for addressing it all. Appreciate it. And then for the public, if there's any other questions, just come to us. You can see, we'll ask. So, thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Let's move on to buildings and grounds, safety and security. Mr. Walsh.
Vince has an overview of the updates on the roof
Okay,
proposals, and suggested an ad hoc meeting, Vince did,
Right.
with the Building and Grounds Committee to really dive a little deeper into each proposal for the roofs. I feel the switchgear replacement is a priority, since we have a new solar panels install and all the controls. So I think that should be number one priority for our district to invest in, is a new switchgear. We had a tour, and I think you all saw the condition of it. Outdated, definitely needs a replacement. So, Vince,
No, thank you. Thank you for just setting that up. Just if you want a quick sort of update on where we're at. We're not exactly at the point where we're going to make a decision or a recommendation on the specifics of the roofs, but we do want to present to the committee and the board 3 different roofing options. And we thought that's the best way to look at this, because at the end of the day, we want to make a decision that you're comfortable with, spending the funds that you're comfortable with, et cetera. So they have different warranties. If you recall, when the architect was here and spoke about the sort of the Cadillac of the roof replacement, which is the full EPDM, top of the line, they'll slope it correctly. Every other original roof that, through the mapping, that needs replacement, aside from the ESIP, again, would be completely removed and replaced with that solution, which was a synthetic rubber roofing. So that's number one. 25 to 30-year warranty on that.
How much was that one?
Very expensive, about 3.7 for all the remaining locations.
Okay, but
Again, it's a budget. They often project very high because they like the bids to come in below their projections, et cetera, et cetera.
And that was the presentation we had, I remember, right? That was
Yes,
the
that
man who
was-
came in and presented to all of
Correct.
us. And that was that the same company that has done the rest of the ESIP?
No,
Oh, okay, so
No,
so
they
it's a different
haven't.
company no matter what,
they have done other type construction projects
for us.
for us
Okay, thank you.
That was our architect. That was,
at the time.
at the time, that was the architect who has done some of our projects that we've been using through the years, and he came in and had done a roofing study, projection as part of like the long-range facilities plan, and we were looking at things, so that's why he came back to kind of level set and say, here's where we are right now, based upon and reflective of the ESIP work, so.
He did make it sound like it was something that we should put to the forefront, so I'm glad we are moving forward with it. Okay.
The second type that we thought would be good consideration was the type of solution that was done for the ESIP, if you recall, for all the sections where the solar was getting installed. And that was a more or less a polyurethane foam type product with a silicone base, and that had a 15-year warranty. So that is an option if we wanted to. Certainly less on the financial impact side, but it's a 15-year warranty. The nice thing, I would say, about that is that you would then have all your roofs, because they gave us an extra year for the warranty on all the ESIP roofs. It was actually 16 because of the implementation. So we would all be on the same schedule, essentially, of roof warranties if we do a solution like that. And we're going to talk about this more in an
What was that price about?
I want to say roughly 900.
Oh, so 3.7 million to 900,000?
Well, yeah, but
About, I know, this is just rough, good, okay, that's
yeah.
something to think about, okay.
Yep, and another one is a third solution, which is provided by a company that does a liquid applied polyurethane. And that is a 20 to 25-year warranty. So it's sort of in the middle there. Now, and this is part of the follow-up work that we are still going through, because in order to determine whether that type of roofing system would actually work on our problem roofs, they would have to take core samples first and do a infrared roof scan to determine the level of moisture in those roofs. And in other words, if the moisture is beyond a certain level, they're not going to use this solution because they would need replacement of the foundational decking of the roof. Okay. Needless to say, we have a quote for an infrared scan from one company. Mr. Moretta's waiting on another one. When we get that, we want to show you that, and then possibly have in that meeting a representative maybe from this company to talk more about it and determine if that's something you might be interested in. So that's the situation with the roofs.
I'm sorry, and option 3, about, what was that estimate? Just,
It's somewhere between $48 and $52 a square foot. I mean, it comes out to quite a bit of money, like roughly $4 million. But again, this is like sort of my just looking at the total square footage without really bringing them in to
Right.
work up a full proposal, because first step one, like I said, is they need an idea of moisture content on problem roofs.
but the other 2 don't. Option 1 and 2 don't
They
need,
don't because of their
Application.
applications.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right, great.
Okay. As Mr. Walsh said, the electrical main switchgear is something we certainly want to advance. We've talked about it since last year. That too, we want to discuss further in ad hoc and then present a recommendation to you. So number 3, okay, back to the water topic here, is there's an opportunity that came up from the Department of Education. It's called they call it the Securing Our Children's Future Bond Act Water Infrastructure Improvement Grant Application. And they're announcing, I believe, applications to run out the fund that they had here, which goes back to Public Law 2018, the Securing Our Children's Future Bond Act. And so they are focusing now on key improvements to water infrastructure. So there's an application.
Sorry, I was just saying.
Question?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to sneak an answer without
For
interrupting.
the grant or the?
Yeah.
Oh, you're, okay. That we don't know.
Okay. Okay.
For one, I don't know how much is available, let's say. But then there's a lot of information that we're reading through right now, actually. It's a lot between the guidelines and the eligibility requirements. There are certain, you have to meet certain eligibility requirements in order to just apply. For instance, if you had the latest round of lead testing in this 3-year study, and you had a certain number of outlets that registered high on the meter, and we took that out of service or made the remediation part, you may qualify. Now, how much? I don't know. That's part of their application package. Okay, but that could be something where the grant would fund us to put in more bottle fillers or newer water fillers that have filters and so forth. What Mr. Moretta and I were more, focused on and thinking about, and that's where we're checking the eligibility, is whether one of our well tanks, the mechanical piece that is, over 60 years old, could that be something that qualifies? So we have to run through that eligibility. Its application is due July 25th. We'll let you know what happens with that. Okay? But it's a good opportunity.
Where's the grant come from, state or federal?
This is state.
Okay, cool.
This is Department of Education. Yes,
Excellent.
it's all from that Securing Our Children's Future Bond Act from 2018.
Cool.
Yeah. And then last but not least, just some ESIP updates. This is pretty exciting because right now it's called Permission to Operate has been achieved for all 3 locations of our solar, which means that Advanced Solar Products is now within their 30-day period of testing and commissioning. Okay, so it goes through this sort of trial period, ensuring that all the connections, all the panels are working, and the inverters are doing what they do, and then we expect that to run its course and achieve commercial operation within this month. So that's pretty exciting to have the solar piece nearing completion. The other pieces, we're also getting excited because the finality of tying in all these rooftop units that were brought in this summer, as well as all the piping and remaining ductwork that's needed. Those are also nearing completion. We have what's called a balancer company that essentially comes in and will certify and balance the system, meaning all the unit ventilators that are running, all these fine mathematical equations that they use to support the ESIP. They ensure that the systems are performing the way they need to be, and then they could essentially turn that over to our operation through our fancy building management system. So that's where that is at. And then there's just some ongoing, the chiller installation, I think, is getting underway by Peterson Service Group, primary school. And then just some other, crews doing, adjusting thermostats and graphic updates to the building management system. So it's on a good path.
The ESIP, did that start back in 2018, or was that when?
So it started actually, the funny part was the back work, not to steal from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, actually started like in 2020 when we had to do a plan. We had to actually go through an evaluation to see with, that was through, what was that, the study that we had to do? It was part of the requirement, so it was a lead up. So it actually wound up being a perfect time because not perfect, but it was a time everyone was able to get in who was coming in, and we went through almost like a feasibility study of if it would be worth it. We would get a return on what we were supposed to do. That was part of a requirement in order to take that step to do an ESEP. So once that was done, so it actually, yeah, the energy audit. That was it. I'm sorry, that it was coming through. So that started a while ago.
I could even
Yeah, go ahead.
piggyback on that and say the genesis was really from the outcome of the failed referendum.
Yes, yes.
In other words, there we were, back to the drawing board. How do we address some of these long-term needs in our district and do it in such a way, knowing that the referendum was not very palatable at that time to the community? So an ESIP became one of the drivers of discussion, and through the energy audit, we did positive results. Yes, you guys can certainly achieve savings, do it, and do it at a zero tax, impact.
5 years
So-
to get these projects, it's
And there's
Yeah, no,
more to
it
do, believe me.
no, but it was
Yeah.
very impressive what we were able to get done over these 5 years for so little money.
Right, and
So-
yeah, in the big scheme of thing, and one of the
Yes.
things was adding in indoor air quality, the air conditioning, and,
Has,
you know,
right, the HVAC unit.
the HVAC units, everything that we were doing, because that was something, yes, improving the infrastructure and doing everything that needed to be done with all those things, but then also, like, adding, upgrading to HVAC where all the schools had it. The system was a priority for us as well, and I think that wound up being $6 million to add to the two spaces. That was a really great work in terms of collaborating with our with DCO and whatnot. And just to give a shout out, because I don't remember if I mentioned it on the 25th or not, but with regard to tying everything into the new electrical panel at elementary school and being able to generators that tie in that work that the board supported, on the 20th, on that last day of school, when the power failed in this building at the elementary school, that generator kicked on, and when I walked into that building, those lights were shining bright, and I think it was I was like, wow, you would never know. They identified the primary hallways to make sure that they're on, so some of the side hallways where there's less classrooms, but the main hallway, you would have never known that there was a power outage and whatnot. And it was also a good test, too, because there were some offices that weren't linked in, so that actually Mr. Metter appreciated a test of it, if you will, that it was, working it forward. So I thought it was, but just to let the fruit of our work, right? I guess you would say it came to work, and you're like, you don't realize how much you need it until it's there. So now I know that Mr. Scarpa and Mr. Walsh also responded that we're working on proposals for areas that don't have backup generators, the transportation depot, this building, and seeing what that, long-term would look like for us.
Administration building.
So thank you.
Anybody wanna-
That's really it. We'll stay tuned for forming a ad hoc meeting.
Oh, that was what I was going to say. And from a timing perspective for that, ideally, would we want to be looking at, to be able to move on that? Would that be for the July 23rd meeting, to be able to have almost like a recommendation? August meeting, perfect, got it. Great, thank you.
All right, anything else? That wraps up buildings and grounds. All right, we're going to move right into communications. Oh, I'm sorry, did I skip something?
Forgive me, I spoke too soon in concluding. I did the ESIP updates. There were a couple of summer projects. Mr. Moretta just wanted to
All right, yeah.
highlight the fact that they are, as part of, turning on, I'll call it, all these systems at once for the HVAC. They're removing all the window units, all the
Oh,
old
great.
window units, so that the system is truly working the way it needs to work. So that's one thing. We have the paving coming up. I know that was on the approval last board meeting. That won't be till after rec is over in around August 11th. We're targeting to do the paving at Cedar Drive Middle School. And then they're doing some playground preparations closer to the beginning of school year with the mulch and that sort of thing. And then they're painting the Cedar Drive Middle School cafeteria in-house. So that'll be done this summer.
Who's doing the painting?
In-house.
In-house.
Our maintenance.
Just remind me, the paving at the middle school, is that the front stripping road? So-
Yes, it's essentially the whole driveway and parking area and roundabout.
Are they ripping up what's pre-existing? So
yes.
are we going to use this opportunity to put in channels for potential lighting infrastructure? Because we are going to be going over where we could potentially put lighting. We discussed that during the walkthrough with Nick.
I don't know that the style or format is changing in any way due to the paving, like placement of lamp posts. and
No,
that
no,
sort of
like
thing.
if the lampposts are over, if we're paving this and the lampposts are over here, we could run channels underneath for potential electrical work in the future. So before we pave over it and after we grade it out, maybe we just put the infrastructure in for a potential lighting program.
We could check with you. See.
Thank you.
I just have a question. What color is the cafeteria being painted?
That I do not know. I would defer to.
I just want to report back to our student council of Cedar Drive Middle School.
I believe it is school color theme, but I have to,
Okay.
but I don't want to speak incorrectly, so.
Okay,
So,
all right, terrific.
might be a horseshoe or two or
that's
something
awesome.
like
Yeah,
that
that's great.
thrown in.
Awesome. All righty. Okay, we're all done, Mr. Roscoe?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I am sure.
All right, we're going to move right into communications. Mr. Scarpa.
Yeah, I had three points of communications and great wins. I need to highlight this. We have an updated website. It's a new infrastructure and content. That's a great win for the board, the district. It showcases just the right way to communicate with the town. So just kudos to the team that put that together and continue to support it with content. Number two, the newsletter is chock full of updates and great news. So a shout out to Phyllis, but she puts in a lot of time in gathering all these great wins, highlights, upcoming opportunities. It's a fantastic platform to not only showcase what has been done, but what's coming up. And it's so student-centric. It's a great win for the program. So thank you, Phyllis. It's a lot of time, and we really, really appreciate that. We never had that before. So, and then we'd love to see it continue. And I know that we're going to have individual highlights, especially with all the work that we're focusing on here, just to keep building that out. Great platform. And number three, Ms. Volpe has always supported a form of professionalism here. And it's one thing I love about this board, so thank you for that. In relation to the comment that we received, I took great concern with that about BOE professionalism. We are very, very professional here. So if you have a problem, if you're listening, if you have a problem, come on down. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure that out together, because standing behind a computer screen and typing something out that can hurt someone is very unprofessional. So come on down and have a chat. I took umbrage to that. I'd be more than happy to support any of us, because we all are on dedicated time and volunteer here, and that was very, very, as a personal low blow. We should never receive that. So thank you for your continuing to support professionalism on the board.
Yeah. Just to add to that, yes, I was very taken back by that email, and you're right, hiding behind an email. If people have an issue with the work we do on the board, I agree with you. Come on down and voice your opinion, but personal attacks, there's no place in this district for that at all.
Absolutely.
You want to criticize our work performance and what we do on the board? I'm definitely open for that discussion, but going forward, I will not address any emails of personal attacks of anybody on this board. So thank you.
Just one comment too. I think it's important to note that you tried to reply to that, and you got a bounce back, correct? If I'm
Yes, I
right?
did.
So it was a fake email that was used, unless it was typed in incorrectly. So also probably good to note that as well. So.
Yep. All right, we are going to, oh, sorry. There we go.
So just so the public knows, it went live on June 25th, I believe, right? June 25th, Thursday, June 25th. And I do want to thank Mr. Capasso. He worked with representatives from Final Site to incorporate, all these new things we wanted on one platform. And we are anticipating the launch of the app in the near future. I don't know if we know when yet.
still working on that with them, so, which is, I think, we want to make sure it's up for the opening of school, so people can, download their app through the, whatever they're looking through. And then we'll be testing the new communication channels, because remember, that was the beauty of the update. Everything is focused through one, as opposed to, the best part about this, and I think there's a lot of background work that goes on to it. So again, I completely agree and appreciate the appreciation for Mr. Capasso, because he really has led this, initiative through the district, for the board and for the district. But one of the things that from the old system, there were 4 websites. So that was 4 websites being managed. It wasn't one. So when you had to, when content, you had to, we were constantly trying to figure out ways and working with our prior company to, when you post something to one, to connect it all to, or we'd try to tie in something Google-based that would connect it all. Otherwise, you're constantly updating, more than one website. So this is a lot more comprehensive, and it's one-stop updating, which is really good, which we appreciate. So I'm excited about all that. We've just launched it, and we know that we're tweaking, and everybody's looking through their own content and stuff, and we usually do a very rigorous review of all the content anyway, so for the opening of school. So we're in that process now of doing all that. So again, thanks to Mr. Capasso for that. And then there was the...
Yeah, and if you can provide us with an update on the press release, because before we go to Dr. Garibay on that update, I reached out to all the folks that took part in this, the House and Grounds, Nick, from his perspective, just to say what was done and what were their impressions. It was a lot of work over a number of years. So it's a long press release. If they kept it all, they didn't edit it out. But I certainly appreciate the opportunity to provide that level of content. So I defer to you on the next steps of the communication.
Sure. So, and that was, thank you for getting that, because getting a quote from Mr. Walsh, everybody in terms of what the board looked like, Mr. Moretta, incorporating his involvement in that. So that is back in the hands of DCO, of their public relations team, and that will go to a national press, it works collaboratively with them for advertising as well, right, where they're able to highlight that. But when that becomes, they'll let us know when and where it's going to be released, and then we can also identify local outlets that they might not be identifying off the top of their heads if we want it somewhere else, but it will be a formal press release about all the good things, the potential savings, and really highlighting. I think a couple districts, one that comes to mind, Eatontown, did a very similar type of announcement. I think it met multiple news channels about the savings and whether they're trying to, conserve energy through and at a cost savings to the community. So excited for that.
Before you mentioned it started in 2020, maybe we could have some kind of timeline
A timeline?
on our website in terms of what was accomplished each year.
Sure. I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't mean to have such a long pause. Mrs. Cameron, I'm like, I'm sorry. Yes. The answer, yes.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Scarpa?
No, thank you.
Great, thank you for highlighting those things. Moving on, we have a lot under curriculum. We may be
Always.
here till tomorrow morning.
Okay, we will start with number 1, the Sea Cadet Program, Inquiry and Investigation. So I'm going to just update. Dr. Garibay spoke with Lieutenant Commander Richie Bauman, the Regional Director of the U.S. Naval Sea Cadet Corps in New Jersey, who emphasized that the program, while a great path to junior ROTC, offers more. So I went on the website, and anyone's welcome to. It's just www.seacadets.org, and there were 2 quotes that I wanted to share. We give young Americans skills, knowledge, and confidence through an amazing variety of training opportunities. Sea Cadets wear uniforms, work as teams in a disciplined environment, and adhere to our core values of honor, respect, commitment, and service. The second quote that stuck out to me was, Sea Cadets gain unique and valuable experiences that incorporate hands-on learning and teamwork. Our diverse program includes seamanship, sailing, aviation, security, building robots, medical, STEM, scuba, submarines, photography, culinary, special forces training, and an international exchange program. So an in-person meeting will be set up between Dr. Garibay and Lieutenant Commander Bauman. And again, it just seems like, I just really want to thank you. I started with, I wanted to do some kind of program for a leadway into ROTC, and what through Mrs. Ida Jones and everyone working together, this surpasses what I envisioned. I'm just so excited for the 25-26 school year to offer this to our students.
Yeah, so I have an-
Thank you. Thank you
you're-
to everyone involved.
Of course, and I have an update. So Mr. Bauman's no longer part of that division, so that delayed a little bit of it, but we were able to connect with the people who were actually stationed right here in Earl, who they were forwarded all the information, and Dr. Rigby and I have a meeting tomorrow with the new representative. So hopefully, in my superintendent's report at the July 23rd meeting, we'll give a little bit of an update as to what this looks like. So we are also equally excited about it. It'll be fun.
Carrying the colors, Cedar Drive Middle School.
Yeah, yeah.
Future graduation.
Okay. Number 2 was the NWEA map versus maybe possibly looking at the SAVIS benchmark assessments. I don't really have much to say about this. Last time, I shared the idea of a potential shift or just, something to talk about from the map testing, the map assessment to using what we already pay for. It's about maybe $4,000 to $5,000 savings to the SAVIS benchmark assessments. I gave a presentation, pros and cons. Dr. Garibay included Dr. Reynolds' comparison of the two in the June 20th, 25 update. So I just wanted to start with, were there any comments on what you read from either what I presented? I don't really feel like I need to be redundant and read all the pros and cons again. Any comments to start with? Okay, so then I just will say a few things. So the key advantages to SAVIS is it is aligned to our curriculum. The SAVIS assessments are built to match the program that we already are using in our classrooms. It's a direct connection to the NJSLA. So these assessments are aligned with our New Jersey student learning standards, and they mirror the format and the content of our NJSLA state testing. So that supports our board goal of becoming a blue ribbon district because it's all based on the NJSLA testing. So like I said before, there is some cost savings if this is something we want to explore by using the SAVIS platform because it's no extra cost. We're already paying for this program while the MAP requires separate licensing. SAVIS provides real-time performance data, so I'm just highlighting, that's tied directly to classroom instruction, giving teachers the tools they need to target skills. And the MAP testing is what we call norm referenced. So really you're comparing to the nation. And New Jersey already as a state constantly performs above the national average. So this comparison really gives us just a limited value in helping us meet our state-specific expectations that are, again, part of the NJSLA. SAVIS is standard-based. Okay, so it means how well are our students mastering the New Jersey standards. So it is more, I believe it's more relevant to use just for guiding instruction and again, going back to preparing for state testing. So just the bottom line, these are just some advantages. Obviously, you saw there's pros and cons to both. I'm just highlighting my strengths. It's a better alignment to what the teachers teach. It's more meaningful data because it's focused on New Jersey expectations. It's a reduced cost. It targets support for student growth, so it will still let us know which students need tier interventions, which students will, should receive academic or enrichment services. And mostly it will give us progress toward this blue ribbon recognition. So if the majority of the board is in agreement, it's something I would ask Dr. Garibay to consider bringing this forward at a vote for our next RAM meeting. It's something that, we might want to consider, or we might say, let's keep talking about it and maybe consider it more for the 26-27 school year. It's just some different ideas.
Just one question. What has less reading involved in it, in the math portion? Like, if you compare the two, where a lot of our children struggle is there's too much reading in the math curriculum, right? It should be math, not reading. Which one has
So
less?
the MAP testing would have less in that
Okay.
case, I believe. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, SAVIS is the program we're using. SAVIS is very wordy. but that is also the way the kids are being tested on the state assessments.
Okay.
So that is a good point. Unfortunately, math and reading now are just so intertwined because so much of it is problem solving.
Well,
That's just a fact.
It's just that majoring in economics, unfortunately, when I hear, reading and math, it gives me an anxiety attack, so I just,
Yes.
a lot of reading involved in that. But but to your point, the Savas platform, it kind of like, we're lucky in New Jersey because we're always top tier state, but this will compare us more towards state than, if you're comparing apples to apples versus apples to oranges. National standards are pretty low, so we're always exceeding those, but these standards, it'll give us a better benchmark to show us how we're doing against our peers in New Jersey.
Yes.
Can I speak to?
Of course.
Okay, so I think the purpose of tonight isn't to be a counter. It's not, it's for level setting of information regarding NWEA and having the board fully aware of what we use and how it's an integral part of our data infrastructure currently and has taken since about 2014 when it came on to be really evolved and incorporated into where we are right now. So with regard to moving forward, and the purpose, Dr. Reynolds was at the Cal meeting, heard it, and we wanted to say, okay, let's give some information so everybody has and that there's questions. Now, if we're looking at something that we have in a program, that is something that I think that with regard to, experimenting with programs, while the board is more than welcome to vote on it, it's not something that we need to vote to experiment on, right? It's not a case where if after we go through this and we level set, my recommendation would be to try them out rather than to automatically pull back and replace, because you're talking about a data system that is used by 1st through 8th graders in all capacity, in math, language arts, and whatever. And I think the benchmark assessment was for 3 through 5, just for math. So I think that was the proposal that we were talking about for Savas, right? So you'd be removing, and now, right, the test itself, I'm sorry, the benchmarks that we're talking about was just using it for 3 through 5 mathematics, whereas MAP is tied, the progress indicators, the data, it provides longitudinal data on performance for kids 1st grade through 8th grade, or wherever they start with us, So that's just a piece of it. So it's just, so I don't want to hold everyone up or have a long presentation, with it, but it was more like just like, okay, this is looking at the 2 programs, this was and what are we currently using MAP for, and where it sits right now so that we can make an informed decision, when we're making recommendations for things, there's a full awareness, and if we want to know more about both programs, we can do that as well. Okay? All right, so, yes.
Quick question, I'm
Sure.
sorry. So if we did decide that we wanted to pilot this like in the 3rd through 5th grade, would we still have then the map through 1st through 8th, where we'd still have that data to compare side by side, or no, the 3rd through 5th would only be Savas?
I mean, it would, if I don't want to obviously speak for stakeholders that we would want to be involved in this, which obviously would be our teachers as
Right.
well, that I think that we would want to do almost like a dual
Right.
type of approach to it and be able
Side
to
by side.
compare the predictors of it and using it, because I think that you'll hear, I don't want to take away because I know that Dr. Reynolds spent time doing this, is that, both do predictors. They both do grade level standards. They both do things, and we can actually extrapolate our district performance data from different things, and we compare stuff. So I don't want to take a little bit, so I want to make sure that we're cognizant of what we're looking at.
Right.
From apples to apples, or they're 2 different assessments, they are, and they actually are used for 2 separate things. One is curriculum-based, right, the program-based, I should say, and one is norm-referenced, and run.
Both simultaneously, essentially?
We could, if we wanted to pursue it, identify a couple teachers that would say, hey, here's what we're looking at, the same way we would pilot anything, and talk in terms of improvement and stuff like that. The way, I think we would just want to be very thoughtful before we make a decision for our staff of what assessments they're using. It's just sitting as the 10 of us sitting here. That's not a very easy decision to
And we
make.
do want to be mindful that we are not assessing too much. That's the only negative,
Yes.
because that you are then taking away instructional time as well.
Sure.
To give all these assessments.
And we highlight that, yeah.
So we
Or would add
definitely
a
want
test,
to,
you're saying.
right, so I don't know if necessarily doubling up is a great recommendation. It might be better for 1 or 2 classes to just pilot a different approach.
Yeah.
Just for, the scope and sequence of an entire curriculum and making sure you're getting everything in. If now they're giving up another 2 or 3 periods or days to test, we don't want to over-assess our students
But
either.
Savas
So-
starts at, you'll probably explain that.
Well, no, Savas
Starts at
actually
3rd.
has assessment starting in kindergarten, so
Oh.
I was just having a starting point where where does it really start with in terms of NJSLA. So NJSLA starts at third through eighth grade. So that was sort of why it was starting there. But it was, you know, it was just an idea, and it potentially could also save the district quite a few $1,000s.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Reynolds, so you're, okay, okay. Dr. Reynolds, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight and to go over this with you. Okay, so looking at our data use, we want to look at that our school district uses multiple measures of data to inform our instruction, right? So as teachers, we're constantly in the classroom looking at our students and looking at how we can help them. And we want to make sure that we're looking at different things to help our students be successful every day, even in the summertime. So one of the things that we're looking at constantly is we're looking at formative assessments, right? And those occur during the learning process. So as teachers are teaching, they're assessing their students to help guide their students' understanding and guide their instruction. So this is going to help them guide their instruction. And part of that process is we use map testing as well as all these different things to help come up with targeted groups to help make sure that that instruction is focused for that student. So when you're looking at here, you're looking at these multiple measures of data, formative assessments, right? We're looking at teacher records, we're looking at state assessments, and we're looking at formal data that is collected and stored in Linkit at the district's data warehouse. You remember the long presentation that I did in the beginning of the year where we talked about the data and what that looked like. This is where all of this data is going to go into, and MAP is one of those things. But we do use MAP on a daily basis to make sure that we are targeting that instruction. And that is broken down through reading. So, for example, if you're looking at taking the reading assessment for MAP, you have the reading comprehension, you may have informal, informational text, literary text, vocabulary, and you're looking at a student's results and you may say, okay, we have a group of students that needs to work on literary text. I'm going to run a small group, right? We'll run a small group of students and we might focus on author's point of view or theme, and I'm going to target that based on what the results were from MAP, based on what I see in the classroom, based on my little assessments. And it's going to help me meet the needs of those students. I also can look at the language usage that MAP provides me. That's in regards to grammar, so when we're talking about mechanics, and we're talking about writing skills. When we're looking at math specifically here, it covers a range of topics, and we get results on the assessments, including realistic complex number systems, operations, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. So you may have a student that is struggling in operations and algebraic thinking, and we want to meet them and target their instruction. We also have the assessment in science, and we assess them in physical science, earth, and space science. So essentially, what is MAP testing, right? So it is a computer adaptive assessment, and this is a huge difference when you're looking at different types of benchmark assessments, and we assess this in math, ELA, and science. And so what does adaptive mean? Adaptive means the difficulty of the questions, and it adjusts based on student performance. So if a student answers a question correctly and the next question could be more challenging, conversely, if a student answers incorrectly, the next question could be easier. So the process is going to continue throughout the test. And that's super important because that's really going to give us where our students are on the assessment and how they're doing, because it's adapting to how they're taking the assessment. Okay? And we're able to track this growth and we're able to see how it's going. So we take this test 3 times a year. This table's too low. I hope everyone can hear me. I didn't gauge how tall I was. I'm sorry. Fall is week 4. So MAP tells us when we should assess to get the best results of our students. So fall, we test after students have been in school for 4 weeks. Winter, in the middle, which is around 20 weeks, and in the spring, we assess again at 32 weeks. And that's prescribed for us so that we can get the best accurate data on how they should be growing. And what happens when we look at that that data right there is you may see a student that, let me see where I have. So you may have a student, right? And you get a snapshot of your student and they have all these different reports in MAP. So we have a class profile, there's a student profile, there's growth reports. And our teachers love these quadrant charts that come up. They're always looking in the quadrant and they're always looking for personal growth. So you may have a student when you're looking from fall to winter that has, high achievement and low growth. Why would that be? Because they've had high achievement, because they're already probably at 99%. A student that's already at 99%, are they going to grow that much? Probably not. So we're able to see where different students are growing. Is it low growth, low achievement? And then we're able to identify those students and put them in groups. Do they need to go into intervention? Are we helping them enough? Is our scope and sequence good? We look at our curriculum. How's our pacing? Are we hitting these standards? And it can break it down for us so that we can be reflective in our practice as a grade level, as a content area, and as a district. And we have those conversations during PLC times, and we meet during team times throughout the district, no matter what grade level. So this is really important information for us because it is adaptive and because all of our students are taking the same assessment. So our students will take the MAP assessment beginning in first grade. Our first graders take the assessment in the winter time, and then we have this assessment through. So we compare in first grade in the winter and the spring. Everyone else in grades 2 through 8 essentially is taking it beginning in the fall. Okay? Again, it measures student achievement, and it provides us with the local school district as well as nationally normed data in the form of RIT scores. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about what a RIT score is, and if you've read any of my MAP letters that have come home, we like to talk about this every time we have the assessment, and we do upload these scores too in Genesis in the Documents tab where our NJSLA scores go as well, so you are able to access them. But a RIT score it stands for a Roush unit, which is a measurement scale developed to simplify the interpretation of test scores. So this score relates directly to the curriculum scale and each of the subject areas. And when we talk about subject areas, language arts, math, and science, where our students are tested. Okay? And so the RIT score represents a student's academic achievement level at a specific point in time. It's similar to feet and inches, right? So that measures how well a student can answer test questions varying in difficulty because the test is adaptive. So the higher the RIT score, the more a student has achieved in that subject. Okay, so it measures the difficulty level of questions a student is likely to answer correctly about 50% of the time. It's not a percentage. Okay, so in some assessments, when you take a regular test, you might get a percentage, right, out of 100. It's not a percentage. Instead, it reflects the student's instructional level, which is what teachers are going to use to drive their instruction. That's what's going to write their lesson plans, okay, as well, and they're going to work with small groups. It depends. There could be one teacher in the room, 2 teachers in the room, and that's how they're going to break them up into small groups, and that's in every grade throughout the district in every subject area. The RIT score is going to allow educators to track a student's academic progress and growth over time. Okay, so it's not just one little piece. It's going to show the growth over time. Remember, I showed you that we have it in 4 weeks, 20 weeks, and 32 weeks. And then we're able to compare that data year over year as this child grows. And because we have Linkit, our data warehouse, you're able to see a student from as far back as when we started having Linkit back in 2017. So we're able to see all of that growth. And that data, again, just to be reminded, does go to Freehold Regional High School District, and they do accept that data from us.
And just not, sorry to jump in, the curriculum person, I mean, just talk, but in terms of that as well, you also look at, teachers crave that as well, because when
Yes.
you're looking at grade levels, it's a basis for articulation of, wow, your kids grew this much this time, what are you doing in that class? So in terms of how did you address that with pacing and stuff. So that's another tool that we look at when we're working with our teachers as well for best practices and so on and so forth. Or if, a class was at a slower pace, sometimes you don't get through as much stuff. There might not have been as much growth as indicated in time where the MAP is saying they should be at a certain point in time. So that helps us to be informing that as well.
And the map provides the learning statements aligned to the state standards that correspond to those specific RIP bands on the growth of how a student's academic achievement level is growing. Okay. Yes? For the magnet programs at Freehold Regional High School District? No, because there's a different, that's totally separate. Yes.
Answer that also. For the magnet programs, the kids are taking usually an additional test, which is an IQ test. My own personal daughters did not take map testing or NJSLA for personal reasons, and they did the IQ test, and they're both in the LPS program. So it has no correlation with placement.
Right. This is data for Freehold Regional High School District teachers and their schools to get on our students to help plan their instruction when they come in ninth grade. Yeah.
If it was shared at the next level.
No. And they have their own, you know, as Mrs. Camera said, they have their own kind of thing that they want to look at. So, yeah. Okay? Okay. So when we're looking at the map data to inform instruction, okay, so we have the district-wide data that we use, we're looking, and this is helping staff analyze specific students. We're looking at overall trends. We're looking at those subgroups, the performance and the priorities to target areas of support as a whole, okay? We're using that K to 8. Then we have school-wide. So we're talking about primary school, elementary school, and then Cedar Drive. We're looking at the patterns aligned in support, enrichment, planned coaching cycles with our instructional coaches. What are some targeted skills that we need to work on? What are priority goals that we're looking at as a content area, a grade level, as a school that we need to focus on? We're breaking down those strands. We're looking at the different reports that are provided to us, and we're using them collectively together. Okay, and another piece that is important here is that it helps us with our professional development plans. So we write professional development plans. We start at the district-wide level, and then the school each writes their own professional development plan, and then the teachers base their professional development plans based off the district and the school. And part of one of the areas is academic and using data to drive instruction. So all of this is tied in school-wide. And then we have grade level. So we're exploring that class level data, we're comparing trends, identifying needs, teacher-specific. Staff are meeting to review student-specific results, looking at that instruction, looking at those different reports that I was talking about before. And then IXL skill plan. This is really neat, and this is every time after our students take the NWA map test, we are able, with the help of Mr. Capasso, to upload those results to IXL. And IXL formulates a specific plan on areas that students need to work on. And I know that Mrs. Camera is going to, as head of the curriculum committee here, will remind everyone about our summer work that people are going to be doing. And so that's, I had to give my plug, everyone should be reading. But this students' work this summer is personalized to them. So when they log into IXL, it's skills and strands that they should be specifically working on where they may need additional help in. And so it's not just, we're going to log onto the computer and do some work and I don't need to work on that anymore. It's very specific to what they need. So it's very important on those rainy days for our students to log in because it's going to help them when they come back in September with us. And they also work on them during the school year as well, but I'm just reminding everyone because it's the summer. So some benefits of MAP, right? And there's benefits to all kinds of assessments that we take throughout. So assessments are not, program specific, measurement of skill transfer and application in different platform or assessments. We're tracking students' individual growth across grade level and subjects. We're looking at off-grade level skills and gaps, not seen in curriculum-based benchmarks. We're looking to help inform our IXL skill plans, and we're contributing to inform data-driven decision-making. Supports MTSS, that's our multi-tiered systems of supports, which is how we identify students for our intervention programs and how we identify students to help get them needs. Some students may have to end up getting a 504 or be be referred even further to special services, to the child study team. So this helps us make those data-informed decisions so that we're meeting every child's needs at where they need a specific intervention the most. We're also looking at local and national percentile comparisons. So our students are compared to each other. They're compared to everyone else that took this assessment, as well as everyone out throughout the nation. It is available in grades K through 8, and it includes assessments for algebra and geometry, which are super important because we are so lucky in this district to be able to provide those high school level classes to our students. And this assessment allows us to assess those students as well. It also provides projected proficiency levels for state assessments. So when the students take the assessment, we do look at this and say, okay, this is where our students are projected to perform. These are the students that might be right on the cusp. How can we help bump those kids up? How can we meet with them? Where's the strand? We look at the different class profiles, the school profiles, and those quadrant reports I was talking about, and we break down by standard how we can help get assignments. And then we can take this a step further and really look at our curriculum and say, are we teaching these standards? Do we need to include this a little bit more? Where are we teaching this the right way? Because as teachers and educators, you constantly have to be reflective in what we're doing. And if we're not giving out the information the right way, we have to look at that and say, how can we do this better?
I think if we can pause here for 1 minute, one of the things that is a benefit, that we've identified in there, it is a separate assessment that is a demonstration of a skill outside of a curriculum-based program, of a program. So it's almost like the ride the bike theory. You learn how to ride a bike. So once you've learned and mastered that skill, you can get on anything with a bike and pedals and learn how to ride the bike. You want to see an application of skills outside of a program. And this is something that is a benefit, that we see as a benefit, that they're able to utilize a skill and apply a skill that's aligned in the sequence and scope of a grade level. They can apply it outside, and we can also find indicators of, and as Dr. Reynolds mentioned, which exceed grade level standards. So if it exceeds a grade level or is below a grade level, that is something we can also monitor through MAP system. On a very personal level, I don't know enough, and through our exploration of our SAVIS benchmarks, I would want to learn more about that, but that is something that we find is a big benefit because a majority of our students take that, and whether they are in enrichment, that helps us to say, okay, they're performing here, or if they're below, it helps us to say, okay, for how far, and that's that growth model that we're looking for and we value so much as well. So that's just another piece of that, and the demonstration of independently being able to demonstrate. That's two huge, benefits, I would say.
Absolutely.
Dr. Reynolds, I'm sorry, can I just ask you one question?
Yes.
Something that you said that I just want to see if I'm following. Does some of the information, the data that we pull from this, does it also help with our teachers in their curriculum writing?
Yes.
Okay. So able to use it?
Yes, because we look at the scope and sequence, and we'll look at pacing, and we'll look at if some standards need to be maybe possibly moved. We're not hitting all of those standards, and yes. So we're looking at that constantly as well as grade levels.
And in fairness, that's all assessments we look at and
Yeah,
to do that,
yeah.
because really what the state
really
will
all
say,
assessments,
because the Department of Education loves a mantra, we're here to help, right? And so they believe that the NJSLA is an assessment of the district's implementation of its curriculum. That's right. Is that is their language that they use. So any assessment that we're using, whether it's program-based or independent, will say, all right, are we hitting the skills? Are our students acquiring the skills or the content that they need to be successful on assessments in multiple areas?
Again, it's one piece of data that we're using, but yes.
Put the picture together.
Did I do this? What did I do? Okay. Disadvantages of NWA MAP. So with every assessment, we have advantages, we have disadvantages. Just looking at the testing time, and looking at this, these are the times of the assessment, scheduling that, looking at student engagement, it takes time when we have opt-outs and makeups and absences and students are not there, or maybe in the middle school, once some of our students get to 8th grade, they may not want to take it as seriously as well. So these are some challenges that we do face with that. And just making sure we're monitoring our students and that NWA is predicting the outcomes on a reliable basis when compared to other assessments results. and just kind of looking at all of those.
And that's a
With
big
any
one going back,
assessment.
sorry, that's a big one going back to that winter assessment. The winter assessment is, we obviously look
Yes.
where everybody's starting point, but that winter one is like, all right, where are we?
Right.
What's that trajectory
And
look
that's a
like?
huge projection.
And then, once we do receive those NJSLS scores, we say, did we see this? You know,
Right.
did we see this, or were we close? Was there growth in that winter to spring? And did winter pick up and accurately? Is it a reliable and valid assessment predictors? And that's something we're always monitoring. And while we've had one-offs, right? We've had offs where in the predictors, it didn't show up on our radar through the winter assessments, and the results were NJSLA, and we said, well, this person did well. You know, we've had good consistency with that, and that is something we can talk about too more and add more information. There's a whole lot of information about MAP and different assessments that we use, but this is just a level setting of what it
Right.
is and where we are with it, and as part of our data infrastructure for the district.
And we do use the winter map assessment as, you know, a big piece of breaking into the data, looking at the strands, looking at where we need to teach, and really trying to close those gaps before the end of the year so that our students are ready to go to the next grade level as well. And so we do a really big dive with our teachers multiple times, and our instructional coaches are an integral part of that, where we'll sit down with the principals and as a grade level content area and go through that and really reflect on what we're doing. So yes, this is one piece of what we're doing, but because it is an adaptive test that gives us so much data, it is very, very helpful for us here in the district. These are some articles here that were shared by the company that talk about the reliability and accuracy. And if you want to take go through them, the articles are linked here in the presentation that Dr. Garibay will share with you. And for more information, please reach out.
Great.
Bottom line is, both programs will offer data-driven decisions, right? That is the most important process for how we now assess students' growth. Dr. Reynolds brought up a few points that I think are the exact same, though, whether we use MAP testing or SAVIS. So SAVIS benchmarks will also show strengths and weaknesses. They will show personal growth. They will show whether it's low growth and low achievement. You know, all of that's in the same. It's the same. It's 3 benchmarks throughout the year. Teachers will use that information to group their students. You can also do the same thing with IXL. You can make personalized plans for students based on the SAVIS benchmarks. A lot of it, again, it really doesn't matter what benchmark you're using, as long as you are using something. You would use it for, again, with curriculum writing, this is the same idea. The only thing I would argue about MAP driving instruction is I've had 4 children go through the district. Day 1, Monday, they were taught 1.1. The teacher turned the page, my kids turned the page. Day 2, they were taught 1.2, 1.3. That's the SAVIS program. So in the classroom, yes, in small groups, it might be driving instruction, but the number one, what is driving instruction 100% is our SAVIS program, because every day that is the curriculum. Obviously, you use IXL and other programs to enhance the curriculum. But again, whatever is decided, it was just another way. We always want to look at ways of how we can reduce some of the costs and still have the same, growth and expectation, and looking outside the box, thinking about what can we use. We have this program. It is our curriculum. It offers 3 benchmark assessments that are built into the program. They're online, and it really has a lot of the same advantages that the MAP testing has in terms of data-driven decisions. So thank you very much for your presentation. Anyone have any questions for Dr. Reynolds?
Just thinking out loud, I'm sorry if there was any questions, that it might be something we can look at. I know that we're looking at, one of the things that we'll talk about, thank you, is that looking at, different programs, for stuff like that. We might be able to look at it, and I'm just thinking out loud, would be providing different assessments for different kids. So if we know students are, high performing, we want to see where they're going, maybe we look at students who are struggling or who are consistently below, and that might be an alternative type of an assessment that we use as more ongoing. I don't know, I need to know more about it, but I'm just thinking about it differently in terms of like, it might be able to incorporate and look at both for different types of kids and measurements, you know, and then ones, and we could develop almost, I'm thinking out loud, and again, forgive me, this is my curriculum brain running, but it might be a case where you can look at, you know, if you get a certain RIT score or something or score there, we're going to default you here to get it caught up and focus more on grade level only.
Right.
You know, maybe a little bit. It might be just a way of thinking differently about it.
Right, and we just have to, of course, balance the over-assessing as well. We don't want.
What would be in place?
Oh, okay.
In place, I'm saying that would be like a
Okay,
case where we could look
right,
at it, a
okay,
different
not in-
type.
Right, not
Not-
in addition to,
no.
in place of. Okay, yeah.
Right,
there's-
just kind of thinking
Right,
of it
this is
differently.
just, again, first I presented pros and cons. Dr. Reynolds gave you a sheet, pros and cons. This is just sort of, you know, learning more about the math curriculum and how it's used, as well as the math testing.
And I'll link the
And we would
presentation.
still have it for reading and science. This is just, this, if we did switch to, if we replaced math or we looked at something else, this, I think, is about a 5, right, for math was about 5,000, I think, for something per subject. So it's, you know, just something to consider.
I don't think they break it out. I have to go back and look. I don't think they'll break it out, the quote. I think it's just the
That
program
was in the
itself.
budget. That was in the budget.
For math, for
Per-
science, I think we
per-
added
okay.
science. Yeah, oh, yeah, we break it down by grade level.
Right.
The total cost of the whole thing.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
So then if, like, to summarize, not to put words in your mouth, Ms. Camera, but, so, just my feeble mind. Essentially, Savas is already here, we already have it, we could be tapping into it for assessments, but we're paying extra for MAP.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So, if we're.
If I could add this.
Yeah, please.
And respectfully, that's a really simplified
That's what I'm
conversation
trying
of
to
it,
do.
and
I'm a
I don't
simple
mean that
man
to be
and
in
you-
any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
MAP is part of our culture of
Yeah.
assessment here. So it's not about the dollar and cents, which is always a part of it, and I
Yeah.
completely recognize and appreciate that. But when we're being selective of the assessments that we are using, there has to be a why and a purpose. So when you're looking at, if we were looking at that 3 and 5, right, you know, or wherever we're looking at, if you remove that, and for the time being, you know, if a goal is to look at something that will continue to move the district forward, that is something that, you know, we can look at as a big picture. I don't want us to make, for this specific area, you know, fiscal decisions only.
Yeah.
I think that's, we have to look at the big picture and how each contributes to the informing the instruction of teachers, and ultimately completes, at the best to our ability, the data profiles of our students.
But like if you're doing, so again, I'll compare it to like my software world, right? If you're comparing sort of, we'll call them, you know, softwares together, right? There's pros and cons of each, and you know, you've all seen them before when you go to buy something. There's like 4 different categories, and you see the check mark. You're kind of comparing. Is there anything that Savas does that MAP doesn't do, or vice versa? Like, is there anything where are we missing something by not doing Savas, or are we missing something by not doing MAP? Like, are we?
No, it's just,
They're
like
very
we said before,
comparative.
one's normative, so based on, you know, the entire country. One is based on our New Jersey standards, so that's the biggest difference.
Well, it
But,
is aligned, it's aligned to New Jersey
Yes.
standards, and they'll flip it to be aligned to New Jersey standards, yeah.
But in terms of data-driven decision-making, we can make those decisions based on either. In terms of grouping students for enrichment, for tier interventions, we could use the data from either one. In terms of the IXLs, individualizing them for our students, we can do that based on either assessment. In terms of, you know, the teachers using that to drive instruction, I mean, that's 100%. The two are, you know, you give the benchmark, you see that a percentage of your class is not understanding fractions, you know right away, oh, I have to go back and reteach this, you know, this
Yeah.
particular topic. So,
Yeah,
you-
because my kids aren't getting it.
right.
So is there? I mean.
Or a
again,
small group isn't, so
simplifying.
you're going to get very similar information on what their strengths and weaknesses are.
But like the questions that the children are reading and you know, answering, is there like a significant difference between the problems that they're answering?
I'd like to see it side by side. I mean,
That's what
I don't know if
Is
that's,
there a
I
way
think,
that we could look at like 10 questions from MAP and then 10 questions from Savas?
so I think
Yeah,
at
I
both.
could provide, I mean, I can get the Savas.
Yeah, we can
You know,
do,
we could definitely
do that, and I know we've
Yeah.
reached out to, we can,
Yeah,
we have
that's
our,
a
we
great
have,
idea.
we have a Savas representatives who probably would provide that, we have an NWEA representative, we've worked with both of
Savas, we
them.
could just print out, I mean, you don't even need the representative to come, you could just different.
Yeah, but I think that a side-by-side would be good to put together and like a comprehend, you know what I mean? We can do that internally and present it to the board, and then look, right, we can look at that.
I have it for K through 5, but we don't have it for 6 through 8.
Yeah, so we can,
Because I'm not like,
Yeah.
I mean, not to, again, keep it simplified, but, and I shouldn't use this, but again, my feeble mind, but if you think about like the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We've kind of been at a crossroads, I would say, at a district for a while, doing the same thing, and then as us as a district and as a board, we're like, well, how can we get to the next level? Like, is it worth trying something different to get us to that next level? Because if we keep doing math, are we gonna stay with where we are? Versus if you implement Savvis, could that bump us up to the next tier?
sure. So I think Link It, one of the things that we had is, that Dr. Reynolds mentioned our Link It. And I want to provide the board with a longitudinal section of where we were at elementary school many years ago. And implementing data, we just celebrated at the last board meeting being like number 5 in the county.
Yeah, totally.
So we've had that growth using that data-driven instruction. And so whenever we're making changes, and I think everybody agree, you want to make changes not just for the sake of changing, but making sure it's meeting the needs of what we're trying to accomplish here. So, and as you pointed out, there are many similarities and things that can be done. One of the things is, I don't know, and this is what I'd be curious to find out about, the predictive nature. Does it give a prediction of NJSLA? Does it do off grade level predictions or under grade level above? Does it give a range above grade level? I don't know those things, so that's what I mean in terms of the inquiry process, and I definitely would want to involve our teachers in that conversation. They have intimately embraced this as part of their instructional information that informs their instruction. I think that's a key stakeholder that we would certainly want represented at the table in terms of informing that discussion, and letting them see it side by side as well, not just be quick to replace things. It's one of those decisions.
Obviously ask them.
Correct,
The Savvis
correct.
benchmark will not show a different
Above.
grade level because it's based on that grade level expectations, but a child who's coming in and they're right away getting 100 on the first benchmark, that means they already know 5th grade, let's just say use 5th grade, 5th grade curriculum. So you know then as a teacher, when I'm pulling this child or this group of students, I should be working on the next grade. I mean,
Because if you look at again, blue ribbon is what we all want, right? And if we look at like all the different categories that were measured on blue ribbon, what's the biggest shortfall of us as a district? It's not the test score, we're there, right? We're there.
One of them was taking the exam.
Yes. Yep,
Taking the
it's the
exam.
participation, right? So think about like, well, what test, I don't want to say is easier, but is it something where a lot of the children and a lot of the feedback that we get is the children are opting out because they're just so overwhelmed, they have anxiety, they don't want to take the test. It's like, it's a lot for them to bear. Again, can we compare the two to say, well, wait a minute, is there something that's a little bit, I'm using the wrong terms, but I'm just trying to explain myself, but less abrasive to the child? Like, what's like easier on the eyes? What's better for the child to kind of go through, to fill out and help them? Because that's where our gap is as a district. It's participation. So that's where I feel like we should focus on that. And if we have an ability with this to improve participation somehow, then I feel like.
Didn't we just say that Savvis has more reading with the math versus the math testing?
yes, but it
So, I mean, that
might,
right there
again,
could
if we
deter
see it, it
people
might
from
have
taking
less
it.
questions.
Right.
Yep.
It might take less time.
So
you
comparing
know,
Yeah,
those
again-
might be
both of the
good.
comparison charts, and Mrs. Cameron and Dr. Reynolds are linked in the updates, they'll both, as well as the presentation will be this
Yeah.
week. So take a good look at those. There's some
Yep.
key points, but I really do think there's more to learn and really in
sounds
nitty gritty,
like
that kind of stuff like
this
that. I
is
think it's
so-
a very, it's a good starting point for us as a conversation to explore and exploring avenues as to where it may, fit
Yep.
in our processes.
I think it's also worth noting that our data is showing that our test scores are improving. So we are trending up. So it's not to say that we've been doing the same testing and
Yeah.
the test scores are staying the same or they're trending downward. And so maybe we need to take a look at different assessments because our district is failing. Like we said, we just celebrated us, being
Exactly.
number
We're
5.
doing well.
So we're doing well. So it seems to me that is essentially for, on a very basic level, we are succeeding in that.
Yeah.
I'd also be curious to know how how would we compare the data? So when Dr. Reynolds puts together the presentation for us each year, we're able to say, okay, last year, this is where our students were, this year, this is where they are. If we switched our assessments, is it easy? I mean, I imagine some districts do this periodically or, have in the past. So how would we then compare the data if we were doing one assessment one year and now the next year we're doing a new assessment? Would we know, or would it kind of be that we were starting at scratch? Because if we're starting at scratch, then,
Yeah, a little bit of scratch, but it's no different than we're switching to being a writer this year, right? We're starting a new writing curriculum. We're starting new assessments from scratch. We do that periodically. We get new curriculums. Last year was being a writer, so we're kind of always starting from scratch anytime we start a new curriculum.
But then
Anyway.
doesn't that assessment, the assessment then supports us changing curriculum, right? Because if we're doing better on the assessments, then we know, okay, again, very simply supports, okay, what we did with this curriculum change was beneficial because now our students are scoring higher. But if we change the assessment, I just think there might be at least, I imagine there would be at least 1 year, if not a couple of years, where some of that data we might not be able to really conclusively say, we did better for sure, or, oh, we definitely did worse, because there might still be a little bit of a catch-up.
Right, that's a good point.
At least
Right,
a
it's
little bit. I
really
don't
what
think
you're
it would be a
doing
huge
though with the
difference,
data. That's
Of
why
course.
it's data-driven
data in, data
decision.
out.
So,
Yep.
so it's really, how are you taking whatever data you have and applying it into the classroom to meet, the individual needs of the majority of your students, and hopefully all your students.
Yeah, and with new programs, I'm sure it's often, you dip sometimes, like when you're new, that first year, because you're like, well, we weren't good at that yet. We weren't, and that's a natural thing that a lot of people panic about, but that's a natural thing. But going along, so sometimes those independent assessments, like, I almost call it independent, but NJSLA, which is not linked to a curriculum program, is that steady, which you're saying, okay, how do we do on this with this program? And so is MAP. MAP is an independent objective, whereas SAVIS is tied directly to Envision, like you said, in
Right.
terms of a curriculum support. So
And it's
I
the
think
same creators of the NJSLA, it's the Pearson group, so it is, yes.
Pearson.
So there is a lot of similarities between the benchmark questions, the topic tests, and the NJSLA. They are all interconnected.
One of the many things I liked about Dr. Reynolds' presentation was the data-driven supervision component associated behind it. So we have a lot of data. There's a great quote that says, data is a lot like garbage. You better know what you're going to do with it before you start collecting it. And the points that she raised, infrastructure, it's a great quote.
So much better.
I think it's actually Mark Twain. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, but the infrastructure is there, and I like how you correlate it in. It's incredible. It's critically important. As you're going through this presentation, you know how the students get all jazzed up about their reading minutes. There's a program where they a million minutes, whatever it is. Readathon. Maybe if we grab that spirit and we encourage them to take the exam because they're part of something. So maybe they're more inclined. Oh yeah, let's just take the exam. Let's do this. Because we have to take 90%, 95%. They did very well by participating in the larger team because they wanted to achieve a team goal. Maybe we shift that and make it a team goal to take the exam so we hit the benchmark, and that's a big check mark for us, and then we go on to the space of all the data. I think that might drive their participation even higher. I know we had a great level of participation this year.
The biggest group you need to target is the school population, the people that are on the margins.
Yeah.
That's how you identify and
Yeah.
target that
With the
student
message, with the right level of
population.
messaging,
The
yeah.
messaging,
Something to think about. But
Great.
thank you. It was an excellent piece.
Cool.
Okay, moving on to number 3.
Number 3 of 6.
Okay, ST Math implementation, as well as, and this really goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about, as well as supplemental math programs for the 25-26 school year. So again.
Oh, your microphone.
Oh, thank you.
Go.
That was on. I'm using it so much.
I'll watch it. Maybe you need batteries.
Okay. So I presented already an article from Marlboro, our neighboring district, that was using this supplemental program for gifted students. We know that Marlboro has a blue ribbon school. I'm a teacher. I've also done 2 years as a math interventionist, and my district has 2 blue ribbon schools. This program that I've mentioned many times is wonderful because it's everything that SAVIS and IXL isn't. There's no reading, okay? It is language neutral. It's all visual problem solving. It really supports our multilingual learners, our students with IEPs, 504 plans, our tier students. So again, you could just go on stmath.com. It's all research-based. A West Ed evaluation across 16 states, 474 schools, grades 3 to 5, found that ST Math schools had higher rates of proficiency on state tests when used, again, with fidelity. So I think I've gone over the strengths. Again, like I said, it's visual, and it is a great complement because it is the complete opposite of really Savvis and IXL in terms of removing the language barrier, and it's all conceptual. So it's all symbolic. So it's very good for visual learners. So given all this strong research, unless there's more that people want to discuss, again, I would really love to see this implemented in the 2025 school year, starting with the primary school if we're able to, if Dr. Garibay decides to recommend it. And we could either do it, it really has to start, you want to start with the youngest, right? It's a new program, and it's not to replace IXL. I love IXL. So, but it's just a really nice complement because of how different it is. And especially if we can, again, when we were talking about our scores, where were our lowest scores? Where were our students who weren't making the progress that we'd like to see? It was our, that population, the ELL learners, the IEPs, the tier students. So whether for financial reasons it makes sense to do it for, all of Conover Road Primary School, if it makes sense to just focus on and using this program just in our tier interventions, that's a conversation that maybe we do want to have a curriculum ad hoc committee to talk about in more detail. But I would love to see this being recommended within, before the school year starts. There's just, again, there's so many highlights to this program that I feel like I've given you some research. Does anyone want to have any questions about this program?
Sorry, just
I'm sorry, do you want to go first?
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just feel like we've been talking about this for a long time, probably since January.
Yes.
It's been on one of the agendas every month. And so I feel like, we...
Very passionate.
I know, and that's felt, let me tell you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe last committee of a whole meeting, we discussed how there was a potential other program, forgive me, I don't have it written down here in my
Touch
notes.
Math.
That's it, that we were also looking into exploring. We also know that the ST Math in some of our districts that did outperform us in math, they don't use ST Math. They actually use what we're currently using. So again, the data doesn't really support
Well,
us
all the
changing
districts
it.
all the districts are using IXL and Savvis. Like that's pretty much.
Right, and they're
all of Monmouth
and the ones that
counties.
are outperforming us are using those, right? So I don't
Right,
know
but we have Blue
I don't know
Ribbons-
that
right.
changing to a different one necessarily.
It's not
There's
changing. We're
not
not
a-
changing anything. We're just adding this for some of our, hopefully our students who aren't progressing.
But I believe too, when we looked into the teachers' discussion of it, we didn't really have positive feedback from them. Is that also correct?
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to look into, just so, because I want to confirm what I thought I had shared, is that we are definitely moving forward with our multi-language learners, with SD Math, the language component. We are also, we have not, and I know that there's a lot of moving pieces at the federal level, we haven't received our title funding yet for the year. So those are things that we're waiting for, because when we try different programs out, we're waiting for that funding allocation, and things to come out. It's not contingent upon that. We can make it work, in that sense. So, so our vision is to be looking at it in different populations of performances, including like wherever we can, I would say, definitely in our multi-language learners, definitely in different areas, whether it's in our after-school programs, but we're also looking at Touch Math too. So I think
Touch Math,
it's about
right.
it's
I've
about
taught
adding.
Touch Math, and Touch Math is excellent, but it's wonderful. It really started for your special education population. That's who it was created for, and it has nothing to do, though. There's no similarities between that and ST Math at all. So it's not like one replaces the other. Touch Math, you could have charts. You're going to teach the children how to count using touch points instead of memorization. You want your your students who are able to memorize their facts to memorize first, but this is a great strategy for students who can't memorize. So 2 plus 3, there's touches, they learn where to touch, they'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, it's very simplistic, it's a wonderful program, and there's, you know, you could bring it up to multiplication as well, but it's very different. And I do believe, I know my district has used touch math for years, I'm not sure about Marlboro, but it is, and I think we should definitely use it as well. It will only help. It will only help all, you know, the students who are, you know, really wanting to increase their test scores, and we really want to give them additional supports. Because we know SAVIS fails these students because of the wordiness of it.
No, and again, I completely can appreciate all of that. I know some of it's above my pay grade as far as understanding the nitty-gritty of all the nuances of various programs because I'm not a teacher. But that being said, I think I'm just a little bit confused as to why we keeping it on the agenda when we do have a director of curriculum, we do have a superintendent, we do have our teachers that are writing our curriculum. They're the ones that have, you know, boots on the ground in our classrooms. I think that our administration understands certainly where you stand on it, and I don't believe that it's our place as the Board of Education to be making that recommendation for a change in a curriculum like that when we have already our administration, our teachers that are doing the work, and they're the ones that interact with these kids every single day that know what's best for our children. This isn't a policy decision. This isn't something that is based in district-wide changes that, you know, are a culture. You know, it's a curriculum change that, again, we have a director of curriculum that does that job to looking into all of that. And I think Dr. Reynolds is on top of that, and even looking into touch math and different programs. So it's certainly not that they're just staying stagnant and keeping the same curriculum. They are making changes based off of the MAP testing, based off the NJSLA testing, you know, all these various assessments that we take in our district, and then just our everyday, you know, day-to-day nitty-gritty in the classrooms that they make all of these decisions on. So again, I just don't know that it's our place necessarily to be making recommendations and suggestions to our administration to be changing curriculum programs.
Right, well, touch math was based on my recommendation to look at what some of the schools are doing that are outperforming us. And this is my recommendation based on schools that have achieved blue ribbon status that are in Monmouth County. And it really meets the needs of a population that we are failing based on data-driven decisions. We are failing this population. And so it is a recommendation that, again, administration can take or leave it. When, just so you're aware, I don't know if you knew, when it was presented to the teachers, and I found this out later, it wasn't presented, I didn't realize when, first of all, it started in the 4th grade. They only had a very small section, which then made more sense to me why some of their comments were about how it didn't go with the scope and sequence, because they were not given the full program. They were given just a very small portion. So that made more sense to me of why there were some negative comments.
It was across grade levels. It wasn't just 4th grade.
Right, no, but
Right,
I mean,
yeah,
but you had told me it was a small.
We got the sample. They wanted us to charge. They wanted to charge us for a pilot. I think it was like 25 and 5,000 for the pilot. It was actually cheaper for us to just buy the program if we were going to go. I'm sorry, going through stuff.
Yes.
So I think that we were able to look at. They gave us a trial thing of that they were able to look at it.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So trial.
Right.
So, but it was across grade levels.
The full program goes with the entire scope and sequence of, again, the state standards and everything like that. So it's just, you know, it was, but I think the teachers
but I
should
guess
at
at what
least
point
have
do
the
we-
ability maybe to pilot 1 year of the full program, if that's the recommendation you go with, to really see where the potential is. And, because you really can't make, usually when you pilot programs, you pilot the full curriculum. You don't pilot just a small section of it.
Right, but the full program costs money, and that's money that comes out of our budget. But I guess at what point do we stop saying what's our recommendation? It's on the agenda every single month for a recommendation, and at what point are we saying, well, we're going to strongly suggest, or in other words, force the district to change over to this program for a year to see how it goes, which is going to cost the district X amount of dollars. If it's been a recommendation, the administration is aware that it's a recommendation, so I guess that's really my question, is that why is it a continual item on the agenda? it's been made a recommendation. So like, where are we going from here? We've done
Right.
we've
Well,
done
I think after the summer, I think you're right. I think at that point, then we either adopt it for the 25-26 school year. I didn't want to spend hours talking about it at each meeting, so I gave articles, I did some research, et cetera. And this is sort of when we're making the final decisions for what's going to happen in the 25-26 school year. So either at this point, we'll see it in the next RAM or two, or we won't. And then you're right, I will drop it at that point. And I've, attempted for 1 year to, bring a program that has been statistically proven to help, again, tier interventionists, IEPs, ELL learners, as well as gifted and talented. That's the beauty of this program. It's both ends of the spectrum. So yes, I do agree with what you're saying. At this point, either we will move forward with it, we'll see it on a RAM, or we won't, and then it's time to let it go. I do agree with that.
And I'm not trying to belittle it in any way, shape, or form, but if I wasn't clear, we are trying it next year. We just are going
I
to.
didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah, I think when we're saying we are definitely using it with our multi-language learners, right, in terms of to take the reading part of it out as part of a group that we want to move forward, because that is a subset of a demographic that we want to improve upon, right? And then we are going to look at other areas where we can also use it, and then collect that from a pilot, and then we're also going to be experimenting with TouchMath. So I'll probably be able to firm that up, like you said, at the next RAM to say, okay, these are where we're going to be doing it, and how it's going to go. So
Right.
we are.
And the
I
two
just want to
populations,
confirm.
The TouchMath and the ST go hand in hand with the
Sure.
populations.
So I just want to kind of
Okay.
just rest assured.
I value your contribution to the curriculum as a teacher and a board member. And I'll leave it off. And educating us as a board.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the insight. I really didn't have no idea.
That's how I feel about buildings and grounds sometimes, so.
I found it a very learning curve for me. I appreciate your effort.
Thank you.
Educating the board on these different programs.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to second that, because I think it's important to have additional perspectives with things. So I think it's good to chat over, a couple of series of meetings, but, that's what the committee of a whole is like, we chat with it in public forum so the public can hear our chatter back and forth, and then if it comes to rest, I don't believe we're not necessarily recommending, anything. We're just like, hey, just listen to an outside perspective of a district that was successful and is doing well. And then if it works for us, the last thing we want to do is change and upend anything operationally for the students and the staff and stuff like that. So I think it's good where we're at, and like you said, go through the summer to discuss it, and then we'll put it to bed if it doesn't make sense for us to move forward with it.
Great.
So.
Okay, well, looks like we are going to move forward, and I love incorporating the TouchMath as well. Okay.
Most exciting topic, very important as a board.
Maybe for
Listen,
her.
That's why curriculum is always the largest. So.
Right, I mean, again, that is the perk, right? It's the number one reason our kids are in school.
No, but I like where to Mr. Scarpa's comments too, and you said it, Mr. Walsh, like sort of the students that are on the fringe of the scoring and things like that, like anything that can bring them into the core and lift them, and that
Well,
really helps the district. So.
If, like she said, if this is a program that's proven to do that, and we're bringing it up to the district to look at it, it's kind of foolish if the district doesn't take a recommendation from us if we're showing something that's working in another district. And we're certainly not trying to micromanage, but why wouldn't we want to do this? So, I feel
the board makes recommendations, and then Garabay and team execute.
And I'm pleased to hear that you are moving forward with piloting it. It's, it's meeting us halfway. It's it's working together. So let's try to move on because we have a lot more to cover.
Yeah,
So.
that was
Okay.
still a couple more in curriculum.
All right, so we are moving on to 4. Okay. Yes, Dr. Reynolds gave me some numbers, and I'll let you add on. But in terms of the positive action curriculum, all students have participated in the positive action lessons this year for grades 1 to 3. In terms of some of the health lessons, we have different numbers, but I'll just point out, second grade had the most no's in terms of 14 no's for a particular lesson out of 107 students. Fifth grade, we had 16 no's to just one part of a particular health lesson out of 106 students. In the middle school, both in 6th and 8th grade, we only had one 8th grade student who participated no out of 107 students. And I'll let you take over, but that's just some of the data, so on the health lessons. Again, I love that we're giving parents the option. We send home an email, and it says, do you want your child to participate? Do you, with every lesson, it's very clear. You could read the descriptions of the lessons. Parents can choose yes or no. And then there are, of course, some parents that unfortunately don't respond either way, and I believe we take that then as a no, right? If they're not actually giving consent, we assume that's no then. Okay, yep, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm going to link this in the update, that's all I'll do.
Oh, you'll link this in the update? Okay, excellent. Okay, so then you could look through the chart, and there's like more details. Okay, moving on now. Let's see, where are we now? All right, number 5, yes. Okay. So the district's 2025 summer program is scheduled. We have both the extended school year for students with IEPs, and we have the summer bridge program. Both began July 7th. The summer bridge program this year has 111 students that are currently enrolled. The first middle school science trip will be on July 9th to Big Brook Park. Oh, today, it was today, thank you, yeah. And so I hope our students learned a lot and, of course, had a lot of fun. Okay, in terms of the summer reading, I encourage, again,
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, of
I'm
course.
sorry. For the summer bridge, is that, are those numbers for participation higher or lower compared to previous years? Do you know those off the top of your head?
I don't, maybe Dr. Garabay?
Yeah, it's been in the range. It's in the range, like it's usually between like 100 to 120. I think we had that as the max.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've loved, it's kind of like the same. It's been consistent. It's awesome. Yep.
Okay, in terms of summer reading, there are optional assignments reminder to families to review the summer reading assignments that are on the district's website. I do want to point out that students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have required assessments in language arts to complete. Also on the website, you can continue with IXL, both in reading, math, and do we have science IXL too? Yes. Great, okay. So you have access to IXL as well, and that was everything with the reading. Yes, please.
So we spoke today, I know we both don't have any at home, but our instrumental music and our musical theater performance, we'll invite the entire, Dr. Garabay will invite the whole board, and that will be on the last day of our summer bridge program.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay,
Okay, great.
thank you.
Great, so if the public didn't hear, I'll just repeat that. So on the last day, the instrumental music program and arts, right? Musical theater will be presenting. Wonderful, that will be exciting. The other thing I wanted to mention with reading, there's the Second Ladies 2025 Summer Reading Challenge. This is also on our board website, not our board, our Colts Neck Township Schools website. So please encourage your K-8 kids to join the National Summer Reading Challenge. It's hosted by Second Lady Usha Vance. The goal, it's pretty simple, is to read 12 books between June 1st and September 5th. You need to log the titles and reflections, and your kids can earn prizes, including a chance to visit Washington, D.C. So, again, this program helps prevent summer reading loss, and it keeps kids engaged in literacy. And you could simply learn more about the program, www.whitehousegov.com/read. Okay, so you're welcome. Okay, so that's all the updates with number 5. Okay, number 6 was added to the curriculum at 4:13 p.m. It's part of the Being Writer curriculum writing. So that was a little concerning to me that a new topic was added to the agenda with almost no notice. It's not an isolated incident. It's becoming a recurring pattern. I know that I have, as well as Mr. Scarpa has repeatedly and clearly asked for at least 24 hours advance notice for any agenda addition, so it could have easily been added yesterday by 6:30. So I just really would like to table this conversation. I am prepared if not, but I'm asking for us to table it because I just think that this repeated behavior is unprofessional, and it really doesn't give us the time to prepare that we should have. And, so I'd like to table this discussion for this evening, if everyone's in agreement. I don't know if we can do a straw poll or how we can do it.
Could I just ask a question quickly before we make a motion to table? Wasn't the K through 5 curriculum writing on a previous agenda as an approval and it was taken off?
Yes.
Okay, so we did have it on an agenda that presumably we all should have been prepared for at that point. I know it was taken off for the bold revise of that one, but that one was put on there for more than 24 hours prior to the meeting.
Yes, but
So-
this was not. And
But it's the same topic, no? This is just a discussion, and that was just
Okay.
an actual voting?
Okay.
This should not happen as a board member. We should not get emails.
I'm sorry, Kevin, I was just asking a question.
Okay.
Trying to get clarification.
All right, order, please. I just want to make it clear that I spoke to Dr. Garabay in reference to this, and I had approved her adding this on. I didn't expect it to be that as late as it was, but it was my fault that it was added.
But it was on a previous, am I right? It was on a previous
Yes,
agenda?
I understand, but I asked for it to be removed so we could have further discussion on it. I
is this
also,
about further
yes,
discussion? Okay.
yes. And I did speak to Dr. Garabay briefly on this, and I said that we would add it back on the agenda. So I apologize, Mrs. Cameron, for it being put on as late as it was. But, I'd certainly, if you don't mind, if you want to,
Okay.
continue.
I would still like to table it unless, I would like to vote to table it, but if not, we could vote, I don't know, how
Well,
does that work? Can I make the motion to table it? I'm not 100%
Are
sure.
we able to table it, or does this need to?
Well,
this
it's just,
something that
this is
needs to
just
be
a,
approved?
this is just a cow discussion. We don't
Right,
really.
this will be lengthy, and I do think it's warrant, I
Well,
think we
could-
should discuss it. I just think because of the
right,
length
is
of
there-
time
is
with
there-
the assessments and.
Is there a
going to
way that we
executive
can,
session.
You're saying discuss the next calendar.
Yeah, but the curriculum writing has to occur over the summer, so if we don't.
It can
discuss
occur at
it
any
until-
time.
is there a way that we can, is there a way
Is
that we
accurate
can?
that it can occur anytime? Because I thought the curriculum, historically, my time on the board, the curriculum writing has taken place over the summer. So if we're going to table this, and I just want to be clear before we table it, because once we table it, we can't have any more discussion on it. That's why I'm kind of trying to ask a lot of questions
Yeah,
before someone makes a
okay,
motion
we're,
for it.
we're not going to table it, we're not going to table it. I'd like to have a discussion, is there a way that we can compromise and make it a little bit of a decent amount of time, that we're not going, excessive amount of time that we can?
Explain what it, I have no idea what it even is. So if you could explain what it is, that would be nice.
So, all right, I can talk about it tonight, I'm prepared. So what I have are some manuals of the Being a Writer program. If you want to take this, if you don't mind passing this to the other side so people could peruse it. Okay. So Dr. Garabay and I have been communicating via email for many weeks about this particular topic, and I wholeheartedly support teacher voice in instructional planning, and I understand the contractual language surrounding curriculum writing, and this board has a responsibility to assess whether the actual work aligns with that definition in a meaningful way. So being a writer is a comprehensive research-based curriculum. It is complete with detailed daily lessons, pacing guides, assessments, objectives, anchor charts with scripted language, questions to ask, and even page numbers where instruction pauses. So I will just give you a quick example. This tells the teacher word for word what to say and what to do. So it will say, have the students bring their notebooks and gather with partners sitting together facing you. Then it tells you, it doesn't even just say review yesterday, it tells you, review that yesterday the students heard part of Kate and Pippin, a nonfiction book. question. What do you remember about the first part of Kate and Pippin? Then it tells you what to remind the students of if they did not themselves answer it. Remind the students that yesterday they wrote questions, blah, blah, blah. Then it tells you to explain that today you will read to page 18. It tells you to stop at the bottom of 18. It actually writes for you the question. What do you think the author means when he writes that Pippin loved playing with her mom? Okay, so here you have a scope and sequence that's done for you. Then you have a program that you are reading directly to your student, to the students. Word for word, it's verbatim. So this program is meant to be implemented with fidelity, okay, not rewritten. Okay, so the task being proposed, right, which is transcribing this content into Atlas and maybe lightly adapting the scope and sequence, because, some days we have a 4-day week and it's written for 5-day weeks, is really clerical, okay? It's not instructional. So I recognize the value of grade level input, but there's a very clear distinction between curriculum writing planning and just paying maybe teachers to reformat a publisher-developed content. So this type of data entry really falls, I believe, within the scope of the curriculum department, and that's what we have been emailing each other about, and can be overseen directly by our director of curriculum, whose role and salary are designed precisely for this type of work. The title of curriculum writing should not exempt this task from, of course, fiscal scrutiny. Especially in this case, there's no new content being created. There's no standards that are being written. Right here at the very top, it will say, in this lesson, the students will. It's right here. These are the objectives. The students will hear and discuss nonfiction. They will write about a nonfiction topic as a class. They will generate questions about the topic. They will write freely. So again, this is something that to me is administrative, not under curriculum writing. Stokes is curriculum writing. You get to Stokes. The teachers have to come up with programs, activities. What are the objectives that the students are learning there? That is curriculum writing. So as for, fostering this idea of ownership, okay, I believe that we should definitely support teachers in professional development with this program, PLCs, implementation discussions, but not this duplicative summer type, just inputting the data. So collaborative classrooms, that's who creates this curriculum. And us as the board, we obviously support meaningful teacher engagement. Again, though, retyping or reformatting a fully vetted, published material does not reflect that. This program, especially the first year, anytime you start a new program, has to be implemented with fidelity, which really means that you are going to be saying word for word what is in this book, because this is our first year rolling this out. So any kind of adaptation that usually teachers do later on, which would be curriculum writing, oh, we know that, let's say, week 5, lesson 1 was unsuccessful. Okay? We can't do that when we're rolling out a new program. So any kind of adjustments should really only be made after teachers have had experience with implementation, not before it's even began. So again, this is just about ensuring, again, that our resources are wisely allocated and work is assigned appropriately. When something's included in a budget, budget inclusion does not preclude review. And as board members, we are obligated to question whether better, more efficient, obviously alternatives may exist. Just to give you an example, this was the old program. The old program was like a narrative. Okay, it's through Teachers College. And you can see this is like my book where I have to highlight. This is a very difficult program to teach. You need to be trained because it doesn't tell you what to say. It doesn't tell you when to stop and ask questions. Okay, it reads like a narrative. A lot of times, what in these books happen, my students have never done when they give a round of applause. You know, so it's like, when conferring today, aim to identify and work with children who have challenges reading with phrasing and fluency. Okay, so this needs to be broken down for most teachers into, you know, using curriculum writing, because a lot of teachers don't know what am I teaching that day, because you could just see, it reads like a narrative.
Yep.
This is almost like, and I hate to say it,
Play by
because I
play.
did love being a writer, I taught being a writer too, but it almost is like teaching for dummies, and I use this program, and I love this program. I'm talking about myself because it's so easy. Rob can come into my classroom, I can tell him, teach day 3, and it's right there what he needs to say. Okay, this is
Thanks
a
for having
much harder
confidence in me.
program to
No
teach.
way.
So,
No way.
so really, those are my thoughts on this program, in terms of of really, do we need to spend the money on curriculum writing? It is really done for us. Like I said, it tells you right here, tells you week 1, day 1, week 2, day 2. It's all laid out. It is as easy as can get. It does it by weeks, it does it by units. So, you know, before we move forward, we have to determine whether the proposed works add any kind of meaningful value, or does it just simply incur unnecessary costs? And
Before we get,
until that distinction's clear, you know,
Phyllis, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your explanation. That is the purpose of these CAL meetings, is for us to have this discussion. That's the meaningful conversations that we should be having around these topics. Yes, I know it's late. I have a toddler at home who's still nursing, and another toddler at home who's probably running around the house like crazy tonight. I know that we're all here late, but this is the work of the board. This is the important work, and it's worth our time. It's worth us having these conversations. So thank you for that explanation and taking that time.
you're welcome. It wasn't like I didn't want to have this conversation. It's just, this was a very lengthy curriculum agenda. Absolutely. But I don't think anything on this agenda wasn't important.
Okay.
can I ask
All
you
right,
a
in
question
the-
real quick?
Of
Yes.
course.
Just so, for the public too, it's 6:25, is you could see that we crossed out the being a writer curriculum, not total number of hours not to exceed 20, and total salary not to exceed 1,040. So that's what you just mentioned kind of solves my confusion from what we removed last time. So essentially, we're paying the teachers and the staff additionally up to an additional $1,040 to complete what you had just mentioned.
To pretty much put this into the Atlas program,
Okay, got it.
because it does need to be uploaded into Atlas.
So there's
Because
other
that is
stuff.
where a parent, you as a parent could say, what is my child learning in writing?
Yeah.
So it does need to be uploaded.
So then the public, parents get to see what is in there. So we're gonna pay additional funds for a teacher to upload that into a system?
Yes. Now, and that's where, again, that gray line of what curriculum writing is, I'm giving you, it's you know, in the contract, it is purposely left vague, but I do not believe this is curriculum writing. I believe this is an administrative,
Yeah.
It falls under Dr. Reynolds
So
and her secretary.
Stoke summer planning / curriculum writing.
That is 100% curriculum writing. If we went to Stokes and didn't have the teachers telling the children what to do, we would not have activities. You know, they're in the pond, they're fishing, they're learning about the ecosystem. They are taking a park and they're turning it into a classroom.
Gotcha.
All right, excuse me.
So for the next RAM, the things that we removed off of the previous RAM, that's what we would expect on the next one, is for us
Yes,
to approve the additional funds?
Excuse me, Mr. Scales, yes, that's what we're going to be looking at, but I'd like to give Dr. Garabay, that was our conversation, we had a conversation a couple days ago about putting it on here so we could clarify everything. So I'd like to give her the floor so she could explain her side, because I know Mrs. Camera, Mrs. Camera did a
thank
very
you.
good job explaining to why we shouldn't be paying for this, but I'd like to give Dr. Garabay the fairness to state her position, okay? So,
Sure, and thank you for the opportunity and for allowing the conversation to end. So I want to point out that the program, there is no denying the program is extremely comprehensive and it is a comprehensive program It is a program. A program is different than curriculum. What was read in there were the objectives that are in there. The students will be able to, that's the skill set. The New Jersey Student Learning Standards have very specific standards that, as per the state monitoring, which we just went through with CUSEC, requires us to link the standards in, okay? K through 5, there are 48 units of study in the Being a Writer program, 48, all of which, the way we write our curriculum, okay, by grade level, has a stage 1, which is the desired results, the transfer of information, enduring understanding, essential questions, content, skills, evaluative nature, daily objectives, all of those things, because curriculum identifies, yes, absolutely, the program, and the program will inform those things, but make no bones about it, curriculum and a program scope and sequence are two different things. They are. They are very closely related, but there are also CUSEC requirements that also call for cross-curricular identification of assessments. So for example, we are required to identify computer literacy in the curriculums. We are required to identify where we are going to be, how we are going to be supporting our multi-language learners, IEP, modifications that are made. Who is making those decisions for the teachers of the modifications that are coming in from the students? I don't find that to be an administrative task. That is a direct conversation that teachers need to be involved in. It's one teacher per grade level who then, when we're onboarding a new program, becomes a teacher leader in the grade level articulations as we are implementing, say, okay, we're going to represent this. There's a variety of activities, no doubt, that come with that. But one of the things we heard through the parent advisory was continuity. So if we have a teacher that's sitting there saying, and we hand a program, and we're talking about all the different things that you can be doing with it, you want some type of roadmap. We actually receive teachers from our feedback from our teachers with Being a Writer, or when we brought in Envisions or any of their new program, they want that structure. They don't want to be handed a manual that says, here we're teaching, because there's a lot of options that have to happen for those things, going forward. So it provides a cohesion and expands upon what is identified in the program. There's other elements that need to be added to a curriculum. That's the way it is. They do grade level articulations. So when they're talking about third grade, fourth, they might be sitting next to you and articulating with the fourth grade teacher and the second grade teacher. That's equally as important. So it's not a top-down mentality of our curriculum. It's actually a best practice to have teachers sitting in the curriculum. Being a writer has embedded opportunity. It is a teaching curriculum. And here's what a teaching and learning curriculum. I mean that through students as well as teachers. From the creator of the program, I'm happy to link this as well, the author of the program, it's designed for teachers to provide, as they're reviewing the curriculum, professional development they might need in teaching writing. Not everyone has strengths in those things, and it allows them to identify areas based on our prior program units of study where they might need help in advance so that we can appropriately be proactive in identifying professional development and opportunities to support teachers as they are implementing the program, not after they've implemented the program. That's always been our approach to having teachers at the table. So I have absolutely, and as you said in our communications, there is no doubt that this, you can absolutely take this and plug, cut and paste it. That is not a curriculum. That is not the way we approach curriculum. That's not the way we have done it. If the board in general would like us to reevaluate the way we engage our teachers and staff in our curriculating process, then again, my recommendation is to always do it in a more of a methodical input type of way. But I do still value the concept of having teachers be the leaders with the administrators in talking through curriculum. Our director of curriculum is heavily involved in this process. It's not a tag, you're going to be doing it, the clerical pieces of it. This is her involvement, conversations, reaching out, and looking at not just that, but also opportunities for the best mentor texts that are going to be used so that students in grade levels have similar experiences. That's something that has been brought to our attention that we really want to focus on. It's very nicely aligned to our Being a Reader program. So again, only year 2 of that, it allows teachers the opportunity to strengthen that conversation as well. It's also in our board policy, current board policy, 2210, curriculum development. As an educational leader of the district, the superintendent shall be responsible to the board for the development of all curriculum and shall establish procedures for curriculum development that ensure the effective participation of teaching staff members, pupils, the community, and members of the board. So I'm just pointing that out as my point of cross-reference as to that as well. So thank you. I don't want to say, and if there's any other questions or anything like that, I'm
Yeah,
happy to
just
share
have
with
one
that.
more.
Okay,
So
yeah.
so like I get it, make perfect sense. I mean, obviously someone who's a stark advocate of implementation knows the importance of it. So if you do the math, and not to simplify everything that the both of you said, which is brilliant, both accounts. I'm here to talk money, right? So $52 an hour to do this. And how do we come up with the $52 an hour?
It's a contractual rate.
So it's
for
contractual
curriculum
rate
writing.
for them to enter this in outside of what their salary is. So it's like
Correct.
overtime.
It's a stipend.
Okay.
That's the way for it's a stipend.
Okay, oh, sorry. One last question, and we're going to
more.
move on. Yep, that's fine,
Rob
one
made
last
me
question.
think of something. It's his fault. I know that it probably varies, and it might vary year to year, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to really answer this question for me. But I know we have like the up to and to not exceed. Do we tend to see that during curriculum writing, we do go up to that number, or do we tend to see that it's much lower, but of course you want to always make sure we're over accounting for it? Is there some type of average or something you can offer us?
I think one of the things you can say about teachers when they're involved in curriculum writing, they're going to go to their up to and probably go well over, but only get to what they're approving for. That's something that we do when we dive in and get into it.
They might be working 40 hours, but they're only getting paid for 20.
Correct, that's correct. And also, as the year goes on and it's being implemented, they're making notes of the tweaks that they want to make, as it said. So it's a prerequisite, it's being proactive to everything. Not just diving into the program, which is very comprehensive and structured as it should be, and it is part of the administrative job to make sure that it is implemented with fidelity. That is the program. This is curriculum, which has many other different facets to it. That for 48 units spread across K through 5, which is what we're doing, is a big task that teachers should be at the table doing, in my opinion.
Thank you both for.
Okay, great. I know that was an extensive conversation. We are going to move forward at the next RAM meeting to vote on this. I think we've heard both sides clearly. I understand the cost factor, and I understand Dr. Garabay. So if there's any, and the time, if there's any more questions, you could reach out, obviously to Dr. Garabay, and if the board, or yes, I was just going to say that, or Mrs. Camera to get more information, but I'm clearly decided on which way I'm going to vote on this. So be prepared to do that at the next meeting. Okay, moving on to finance. If we could speed the meeting up, we have our attorney here, and she is billed by the minute. So, all right. All right. Okay, so let's get into finance, please, Mr. Rico, if we can start. And I know you're usually brief as it is.
So fiscal year 2025 year-end closing process is upon us. We have the annual audit and operational support. The eligibility to apply for support for the impact aid children with severe disabilities program for the 2023-2024 school year. We're applying by July 15th for that. And the budget for the 2025-2026 has transitioned to the Genesis software platform effective July 1st. The BSR and other financial reports will have the new style and formatting. And if Vince wants to elaborate on any of that, you're more than welcome to. You got about 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Number one, I believe a more kind of formal proposal has been presented to yourself.
Yes.
I believe from Dr. Garabay and myself to provide, more rationale and justification for that. So we anticipate, some needed support in that
Yes.
department.
And I have discussed that, so we're.
Okay, okay. Number two is really just, it's a offset of the Impact Aid program. This is actually, I received a message that we've been identified for a Department of Defense Impact Aid, Children with Severe Disabilities program to apply for additional support. And it's essentially kind of formulaic. You have to provide certain data for the 23-24 school year. In other words, we met the eligibility, which I believe is defined something like you have to have 2 children who had severe disabilities of military impacted families that we serve, and you put some information, we have to apply. So we're going through that process, and then it's sort of a wait and see if you're going to get some funds to apply.
So is this for a year and a half in arrears?
Yeah, that's what it's identifying, that,
It actually, it doesn't roll in with the fiscal year. We always get it back. Like, it's never like for the current year. They always just keep giving it. Yeah,
well,
that's the way to.
this isn't standard.
Oh, no, okay, I'm
It's
sorry,
from
this
the
is
program,
extraordinary,
but,
that's right.
No,
Sorry,
this,
for
well,
special needs,
this
yeah.
is a special piece that the Department of Defense
Yes, my apologies.
sponsors, yes. So it is in fact for a prior year, but I guess they use that catch-up time to then identify who did we serve through other information through the, Impact Aid program. Okay, and that's really it. Number 3 is informational, that we're, we've rolled out the new Genesis system July 1, and we're operating in 2 systems essentially right now, dual maintenance until we get through the year-end close financially. Lots of meetings with Genesis and trainings going on, and it will change some of the formatting that you'll see in some of the financial reports that you'll probably see in September, meaning Board Secretary's report and all the all the revenue and expenditure reports that come as part of that. In fact, President Volpe will be signing off on the new payroll registers that have been in place on that new system. So that's it for finance. Was that 3 minutes, 3.5?
Wow, that was exceptionally
Thank you.
brief. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Maraski. Okay, let's get into policy with Mr. Scales.
Yep. Number 1, parental bill of rights, that the attachment is there, version 2. Just some supporting evidence. What I wanted to bring up was the Supreme Court ruling, Mahmood versus Taylor. So what we're seeing is the parental bill of rights in sort of really in live format here, because what would have happened here is if we would have had the parental bill of rights, that right always did exist. This was just a battle between, did the state have the power in order to remove that right from the parent, and then the Supreme Court ruling struck down the state did not have the right to remove that right from the parent. So essentially what it shows is that the parental rights that we're writing, again, firm base of rights, and that we have the verbiage in there that no matter what happens in the law, we will follow the law. So us as a district would not have had to change anything with this. So the attachment is there for you to read through. It's 132 pages. I doubt you'd read through it all, but you can just, the first couple pages kind of summarize it. It's it's freedom. It's freedom of speech, right? You have the ability to remove your child and opt out of that particular aspect of that curriculum. So phase 2, or actually, I'm sorry, phase 3 now, the parental rights, how we're going to draft version 3. It's the introduction, creation of feedback from staff and administration, right? So we received the feedback that we had, and then from the Parental Advisory Committee for you, Dr. Garibay, to now let's try to get some more feedback from the administrative and the staff for them to read through the Parental Bill of Rights and for them to have the ability to give feedback, right? Because that's what this is. It's for the district. It's not just, even though it's called Parental Bill of Rights, it's for the district, so we all operate from a single source of truth. So,
Are we looking for a
yep.
Are we looking for a survey for that, or are we just looking for like paragraph form?
Whatever.
Like what is?
what do
I
we want?
defer to you, whatever's the best way. Unfortunately, it's the summer, I don't know how much feedback I would assume it's a hotter topic for them to give feedback, but they would. Yeah.
say, you'll get feedback as
we Yeah. would
any
Perfect, yeah, okay.
We have communication with our staff.
Yep, okay, and then, once we have that, that will enable us to draft version 3. Version 3 would then be sort of our final draft, and then we'll present that to the legal team for, final review, just to make sure that we're not breaking the law, so. Number 2, there's a new, requirement from the state of New Jersey for sunscreen and sun protection. Stark advocate for sunscreen. However, some weird things in here. I encourage all of you to read through it. So, as the state normally does, they write things very vague in a very poor fashion open for interpretation. I would read through it. I have a few problems with it, and I would imagine you as parents would also have a few problems. They addressed a couple of the problems in there, like is a teacher going to touch your child to apply the sunscreen? Absolutely not. That's against the law. But read through the rest of it. There's some subtleties in there that don't allow for medical and religious freedom. So there would be a paragraph in there, and there would be the ability for the child to carry that sunscreen with them. But to be instituted as a requirement, this is definitely going to be challenged internally by, obviously, we'll say the more conservative bunch of litigation teams in the area. But what I would do is I would read through it, because we have to draft our own language. But it's great. We got an alert that this is coming through, and it's a point of discussion. So if anyone has any questions, you can say it here, or Dr. Gerbe, if you'd like to add, go from there. So.
Yes, I've been in contact with school boards, and they'll put together some kind of a sample, the way we would get the updates from Strauss Esme, and then once we receive that from them, because I would imagine, since this came out, that the date of that was, when did that come out? That came out June 4th, and it has to be in place by September 1st, so that's going to be a timely one from a processes point of view. There may have to be some behind-the-scenes work of a first read, second read, that type of thing to get it on and going from a timely perspective, so just being aware of that.
So like you said, we'll get the alert. Go from there.
Another overreach of parents' rights.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We don't co-parent with the government. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, so number 3, policy manual transition. Everything is going well. With the new website as being more modernized, this is also, I got to read through a lot of the way that we're listing the policies, and it shows you, there's check marks up on the top, like where the policy came from and who approved it, whether it's from the state, whether it's from federal, whether it's us that we had addressed it. I think that's phenomenal. It's very clear. It's going to go hand in hand perfectly with the parental bill of rights, because it'll allow us then to add in the links that the parents are asking for, so we can bring them directly to where they need to be. And then just again, we're just asking everyone to review their appropriate sections. We've gone through it so far. The conversion table that you provided to everyone in the updates, click on that, and encourage you to click on that and read through. It's going well. I would say, when I was reading through everything, I didn't find anything that was too erroneous. I think we're in good shape. It's not going to be as chaotic as I originally had thought it would be. So I don't know what your comments on it. I mean, you guys are doing great with it. So.
Thank you. So we are probably by the RAM, if not next one. I'll be not necessarily voting on it. We're not in a position to do that yet. But the recommendations that we've found so far on what we have, like with regards to entrance age, there's a couple of things that were like left out that the administration feels should remain in the new policy. So that'll all be forthcoming and communicated.
Yep. And we got to see different sections and all that. But anyway, it makes things more clear, and it's aesthetically pleasing as well too. The other one looked like it was on a typewriter, but anyway. Gonna go on a soapbox for number 4. So I apologize, I'll be quick here. I'll make it in 3 minutes. So a lot of comments are made by some of, some parents about the parental bill of rights is that we're not doing things, we're not in it for the teachers, right? Not true whatsoever. As a district, we are here for everyone. Something that the teachers may not be aware of that I want to bring to the board's attention for everyone to understand is that there is going to be a state investigation into the NJEA for potential unethical behavior for Sean Spiller, who was running for a primary position, not running for governor, but running for primary of governor. What occurred was Spiller's own campaign only raised $438,000. The contributions made to Spiller's campaign were $45 million. So think about that for a minute, right? So $45 million from PACs that the NJEA takes funds from their teachers and provides to the PAC, and then funnels those funds from the PAC to Sean Spiller's campaign. I wanted to give you some stats so it doesn't look like this is erroneous at all. So NJEA channeled $45 million, not of discretionary funds, mandatory dues, to Sean Spiller's campaign. Spiller, again, if you saw how much he raised versus what was given to him, that is what's going to be investigated for unethical behavior. If you look at the amount of people that voted for Sean Spiller, that equates to over $500 per vote, right? So as Dr. Garibay pointed me to, there's a page on the NJEA websites that recommends that teachers donate to this PAC for a donation of any, they recommend, and if I have the verbiage right, you might know, Dr. Garibay, they say donate $3 per paycheck to this PAC, and then you could put that on autofill or whatever for auto draft because you pay $5 for coffee. Is how they word it, right? Let's do a little math here. There are currently 200,000 NJEA members. So what this would equate to, if they, for this $45 million, is that this would equate to $200 donated per member. Current donations are only $3 per paycheck. This would come out to essentially $7.69 per paycheck, right? So think about this. So what I wanted to do and why this is up on here is that I want to, again, we're here for our teachers. We're here for the CNTEA, right? That's our local association. Their funds could potentially have been unethically taken from them. Not from the $3 that they put in per paycheck, right? And you know that some people don't put in $3 per paycheck. So that means the next person would have to do 301, 302 in order to get to this $45 million. So I wanted our teachers to be aware of this as well. And then I wanted to offer our help if any of the teachers felt that their voice was being suppressed by their own association, right? Because sometimes teachers are not, they hold in their comments because they're afraid of any retribution from their associations or anyone that they're affiliated with. So as a board, I wanted to see if you also agreed with this, and then we could reach out locally to our unions here and associations here and ask them if they need our assistance to be their voice, how we've done many times with our proclamations, and you know how we have contacted the state on behalf of the students and parents. We're also willing to do that on behalf of our teachers and administration here. So that's my soapbox. That's it. So I wanted to see what you thought, and I could put all these stats in form like I've done with all my nice one-pagers if you want to see this and hear from there. So that's me. That's sorry.
This seems like something more along the lines of advocacy. Is that how I'm understanding it, right? Like you're trying to poll the board to see if we should be doing something more along the lines of advocacy for the CNTEA and for our teachers?
Both. See, so I wanted to see if they want us to address it, because there are some things that we could do from a policy perspective as well to prevent where if something was done like this to a particular teacher, administrator, or staff within our district, we have the ability to write policy to protect them and give them the rights in order to. But they have to go back to their own unions and do all that stuff. But I just, the main sentiment of this is that, again, if someone ever felt that their voice is unheard and they had something that they were holding in and they wanted to voice their concern, they can bring those concerns directly to us as a board, and we will, like to your point, we could advocate on their behalf as well. Or we look at it, if we get a lot of concerns from them, then we can look together as a policy board if there's something that we want to do, you know, as a district to prevent the state from doing this to our local teachers here as a district. So
I don't even think we need to do something from a policy standpoint. I think that we could reach out to our legislators like we've done in the past or something along those lines. If I'm following what you're saying, it sounds
exactly
like that's
right.
kind of
Yes,
where you're along.
it's up in there. I'm open for anything. I want everyone to know that, you know, this is not something that's being reported on from news that will say that, again, where a lot of the administration and teachers will receive their news from. So obviously the associations are not reporting on this. whatsoever, but the facts are there, and you can't, and number and data does not lie, so.
The U.S. Attorney investigating for
Could I jump to the parental bill of rights for a moment?
You sure can.
Thank you. So I'm very excited for us moving forward with it, and I was just wondering, after it gets approved by legal or we have to make changes, are we able to implement it prior to, I know the Parent Advisory Academy wanted us to link everything to the current policy, and right now we're unable to because we're switching.
Yep.
Are we able to approve the parental bill of rights? Let's just say it does get approved by legal, even, and just let the public know, like, as soon as we're done with this transfer, then we'll link everything, like, could we move forward? I would love to see it passed before the start of the 25-26 school year. That's what I'm thinking, and we might not have all the policies yet rolled over. So is it something we could pass and then constantly update it as the policies are being rolled over to the new New Jersey school boards?
Jen, you gonna go first, yeah?
I think some things can happen concurrently. So we could take version 2 if we wanted to and provide it to our legal counsel just to get that initial feedback if we wanted to, since it's already in a version 2, and then it would expedite.
Trying to save costs.
I know. But in terms of
Trying to-
expediting, those kinds of things, and I think that
Well,
links.
just so if we have to change something.
Yeah,
or-
and I think if version 3,
Legal doesn't need to be part of it.
no.
It's the wording.
If version 3 is going to be based on feedback, I think we might as well, at the same time, get legal's input on the statements and things like there, and to say, and take that into consideration before we do version 3, if version 3 is intended, if the goal is for that to be a final version.
Okay, so before the next RAM meeting, are we able to get it approved by legal? Or just to get feedback from legal?
I
Is
can
that
send it
something-
to Mrs. Miller tonight or tomorrow morning if you'd like me
Is that
to.
something we feel we're ready to do as a board?
I'm just concerned with sending it without the links for the policies, because I actually do think that it's important that legal review the policies that we're saying are linked to that, because what if there is a discrepancy there? So that would be my only hesitation. This was brought up at the last meeting when we discussed version 2, where there were no links, and even some of our parents were concerned about that, because even their feedback was they wanted to be able to go to that policy and refer to it based off of what that topic was. So I think that in the effort to save costs to the district, we should be waiting. And so maybe it's something where there's not many policies that it's going to refer to. So maybe those are the policies that we kind of pull out and say,
right
these
away.
are the ones that we know that we need in this. So we got to review these and get them transferred
Okay.
over. This way they're in that, and then it can go off to legal. So that would just be my only concern with having legal look at it prior to having those links. I think
Right,
that they're,
I'm good with
they're
that.
important.
So is that under your, who
No,
does
I mean,
the
it's,
links?
we're
Is that
not, I
something?
mean, since you're in the audience, we can preempt it. There's nothing in here that's changing law or changing any policy whatsoever. So like, the links to the policy is more from we'll say a UX, a user experience, right? That's all it's for. It's made to make it easier for someone to identify it, where it's a little bit more hand-holding, and we're taking that feedback and we have agreed to say, yeah, if you want it to be easier to try to find something, we're gonna do that for you. So, I mean, again, it doesn't, like you said, based off of feedback, to be honest, there's nothing that we can't change anything in it because we're not changing laws. So let's just say the feedback comes like, well, I don't agree with that. Well, you may not agree with it, but that's what the right is. So that's what we need to feel like. That's what we have to be prepared for. The feedback that we're gonna get is gonna be, well, I don't agree with this right, or I don't agree with that. But the fact of the matter is that is the right, the way it stands today, and it's up then again to the state and federal and then local legislation in order whether or not that right is accepted.
So
into law.
based on that, that's, I guess, to be able to keep moving it forward then, are you saying we can have legal approve it before the links?
Correct.
Or do you suggest, like what Jessica mentioned, of us providing the links that we have now, even if it's us, we have to redo the links later on?
Well, the links again is just, it's logistics, that's it.
Right.
We're just adding, because again, we're going through the policy change, so what essentially we would be doing is we're saying like, section 3, that's linked to section 9,000 in our new policy.
Right, so as chair, do
That's
you
it.
recommend that we send it to legal before we
do.
have the links?
I would recommend it's going to be simultaneous. We're going to be doing three things at once. We're going to send to legal for approval, get feedback, and then we're going to also be able to start uploading the document as well too, right? 'Cause
Okay.
the
I
logistics
love
is
that,
going to
just
be
to, yeah,
in
just to keep moving forward.
the website. That's all. The links are going to be the website. Like for the actual Bill of Rights itself, the Bill of Rights in written format won't have links to it, right? Because a Bill of Rights doesn't have a actual link or a reading of the current law. It's just a list of rights that exist in humanity written by the whole,
Right,
the higher
but we are
power.
gonna have
That's
the
it.
links somewhere, right, that was,
Correct.
that was
On
what
the
the parents,
website.
okay.
The website, logistically, again, it'll be essentially what we're thinking, right? It'll be on where we are writing our policies and our bylaws. It'll be listed there as just another link, that is your Bill of Rights. And then you then have the ability then, after reading the Bill of Rights, to click on that link and it'll bring you to the appropriate bylaw or the appropriate actual policy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that,
Yeah.
I love that idea of
Just
doing
to
it that way.
confirm though, because you're working on version 3, I guess, right now.
Version 3, we haven't even started because we need feedback
Feedback from the
from
teachers.
teachers.
So-
But there's nothing that,
But so legal would review version 2.
yep,
And then once we get feedback from the teachers, let's say there was something that we were going to change, right? Paragraph 5
Yep.
in the first section. Then you're going to change that, and then is legal going to review that again?
yeah, they'll
Yes.
leave that,
So you're going to
that
pay double the legal
particular-
fees. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're all on the same page here, because if legal looks at it for version 2, but then we make changes based on our feedback, they're looking at it again.
Well, they
Yeah,
only have to
there's
look at that
only-
one section, right?
Yeah.
It's still
In
billable
theory,
hours.
of course,
It
but
could
it
take
should
them
be.
10 hours to look at that section.
It's
We
only
don't know.
that-
Right.
It's only that, so again, there's
Right.
nothing,
It could be a very complicated section.
Right.
We don't know.
well, that's just it, but again, the feedback that comes
I just want to
can't
make sure I'm on
be-
the same page.
The feedback is we're listening to make sure that they have the ability to give us direction and to give us the feedback and their concerns about certain items and things like that. That's what
Right,
the
but I
the
assume there would be
feedback is.
taking some of it into consideration and maybe amending it to some extent, right? I imagine
Well,
just
if you
based off
think
of some
about-
of the emails we've received, some of those concerns are probably the same, and so.
But the feedback would be more like user interface, it would be logistical, it wouldn't be able to be content.
But it
because
could
the
be. We
content
don't know.
is-
It could
right.
possibly be, right?
Content
There-
we can't change legally because we're not changing laws.
No, but there could be something in version 2 that a teacher sends something in and we're like, wow, that's a great suggestion. Let's change that, and then legal has to review it again, right?
the
So
ver- yeah, the
there could be.
verbiage-
There could be something that's changed. We've already changed
It
it.
could, yeah.
And then you know that you already have on here, there's a version 3. So if you're
Yeah.
just looking for feedback, just to look at the feedback, just to say, well, we got the feedback, but we're not going to change anything, legal's still going to look at version 2, well, then presumably there's not going to be a version 3. You're just having
there would.
teachers give
Version
feedback
2
just to give feedback.
No,
Just
version,
to say they gave it.
version 2 is, the version 2 is links embedded.
No, version 2 is what
verbiage
you've already,
change.
yeah, but version 2 is what you linked here. That's what we reviewed last time.
Correct, and same exact verbiage,
Yeah.
just with the placeholders for where the links are gonna go.
Right.
So version 3, same exact
It's
verbiage.
just gonna have the links in there?
Whatever, the links will be included, and then
So it's not going to take into
whatever-
account any other feedback that we received.
Well, there's feedback would have to, again, feedback has to be logistical or user interface
But
or
it could
user
be, we don't know what
experience.
we're going to get.
But we
I'm sorry, I feel
can't,
like we're
but no,
belaboring
we
this.
can't accept any verbiage
now.
changes, because teachers don't have the power to legislate.
I appreciate both of your
So,
viewpoints.
yeah.
I do, we could always continue. We have a lot more work. This isn't going to be passed
Yep.
in the next week or two. So I just want to make one last comment. We really don't have much left. Just to go,
Yeah.
just
you're
to go back to your comment on Sean Spiller, I want my comments on record. Sean Spiller played a huge role in torturing our children in regards to forced masking and school closures, which led to the biggest learning loss in our children's history in New Jersey. It's sad to see that teachers' hard-earned dues were used to support his campaign. He's a disgusting human being, and I'm glad that he didn't make it past the primary. So I just want that on record. Thank you. Moving on. We are going to negotiations, nothing under there. Transportation, I don't know if you want to touch on that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So we're close to procuring a new replacement two-way communication system for all our buses. If you recall from budget time, we had about 83,000 budgeted, but it was a system, it was a solution for a different, a non-cell-based system that required putting repeaters up on buildings. And this system that our transportation director has researched and found is a cell-based system. It runs on the AT&T network. They've tested it. It works great without flaw, and it's significantly less. So that's good news. So that'll add some, make funds available in the budget for reallocations. The other, number two, is that we have an additional student that needs to be transported to North Howell Middle School. Doing our best to try to find any kind of transportation jointures and that sort of thing, but it's so far nothing, and we may have to contract that route out to, a Monmouth Ocean Ed Service Commission.
But on the flip side of that, we were aware, just to add some good news to that statement, is that we were able, for one of our out-of-district ESY students, we were actually able to bring that back and house it in district for summer ESY. So that was saving, we were able to capture in ESY too. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. So a little bit of good news with that as well.
That's it.
Okay, great. That was brief. Moving on, personnel, we have just a couple of things there.
They're all just FYIs for now.
All right, that's fantastic news. All right, we're going to open up the floor to comments from the public. If anybody would like to get up and say something, now is the time to do it. State your name and address for the record. Do you want to get up? Oh, okay. Oh, I was going to say, thank you for enduring our long Cal meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're going to close public comment at this time. If anybody has new business, if you would like to bring it up briefly now. Yep, anybody, new business? Yep.
We're having a discussion for school safety.
Yeah. School safety, make sure we're hearing it. There you go, yeah.
Reference to the cameras, we had past incidents of cars passing, stop school buses, stop signs out. Correct me if I'm wrong, do they have the ability to capture that license plate, the camera system on board?
No, they're not exterior. So if we get it, we have interior cameras, and I will say it's not likely. It can happen, but we don't have exterior cameras like on the extended arms, like some of them have to be able to do that. If we are able to get a license plate, it is because the angle of the interior has been able to capture it. And that's far and few between. A lot of times a driver will get or someone at a bus stop will get the license plate.
This came out of a bus driver saying
Yeah.
that he sees offenders repeatedly, literally every day going through. And so he could press a button and take a picture of it over live feed, and it's with the stop sign, signals like a red light
Yeah.
violation.
Yeah.
He knows other school districts do have that capability.
Yeah.
So as we look to update our two-way communication system for buses, is that something that we can potentially bring in as a potential for safety and revenue opportunity?
The answer is always yes. We can investigate that. Absolutely. We can look into it and see what's available. Yeah, we'll speak to Mrs. Orozco, and she has her network of being able to look at vendors to see what it would offer. When that does occur, it is a very serious offense, and we are in communication with our police, who will take a description of the car. It is a significant offense. Let's not talk about the legal aspect. The danger of doing so recklessly puts the life of a child in danger, period. And it is something that the police department and our school district work tirelessly to be able to identify, to the point where they will go above and beyond to almost like stake out and look and watch for vehicles of a similar nature who would be doing it. And so we make every effort to identify people who are doing this. We put messaging out at the beginning of the year to remind people not to run the reds, is what's called running the reds, and is the serious ramifications of it. in my opinion, there are no legal recourses that extend beyond endangering the life of a child entering a school bus.
This
So,
particular incident, the school district and the police department were very,
on it.
they were.
Yeah, it's not saying, but to your point, from a preventative and being able to even minimize or to expedite being able to identify someone who is committing that crime, repeat offenders and whatnot, that's something that we can always look into, yes. Absolutely.
Tell the police to set up a speed trap right there. They do it. They'll send a car
They
over
were
there.
at that particular location
Yeah.
multiple
They'll send it.
times. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Great, thank you for bringing that to the board's attention. Anybody else for new business? Okay, at this time, we are going to end the live stream, and I'm going to need a motion to move into executive session for 2 matters as listed, confidential student and staff matter, and number 2, the negotiations, no action will be taken. So if I could get a motion to move into, oh, I'm sorry, how long? Oh, gosh, I'm hoping it's within an hour for both things. I'm hoping less. Okay,
Motion?
yep. Great, thank you.
Anybody want any snacks over here? I got a.
Lunch is over.
Bye, Vinny. Yeah.